Crash Law 24 sponsors GBNews Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A76 is closed near Carron Bridge due to a road traffic incident. Road users should follow the diversion and allow extra time. The M60 clockwise between junctions 8 and 9 has a crash, with one lane closed. The A38 southbound in Derby is congested, leading to increased journey times. In Hampshire, a vehicle left the A36 southbound between the A3090 and the M27, causing road closures. And on the trains, Elena services are disrupted between Stirling and Perth, and Northern buses replace trains between Corkicle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GBNews Traffic and Travel Report.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Good morning, Graeme. What's your view on the latest comments about the gender of the next James Bond? Should there be one?
Well, there obviously should be a James Bond, but it should never be a woman. I think this is something that was in the media and the press some years ago that's kind of been dragged up to a degree. It's a nonsense. It was a nonsense when it was first spoken about some years ago, and it's just as big a nonsense now. It needs to be a 6 foot tall, dark-haired, strapping, middle-aged guy. I say middle, I mean talking about 32.
Well, Graeme, like,
32 is quite young in my book.
Well, but I mean, look, Graeme, what I say is that a lot of these. I mean, I know Amazon, I believe, have bought the rights to James Bond now. I mean, you've seen what they've done with some of their other shows. I'm not so convinced they're not going to go down this super woke, what I would call woke route. Is it? Do they really need to reinvent James Bond though? Because you've had so many iterations of him. They pretty much killed him off in the last movie. Do we need to reinvent the idea of James Bond, or should James Bond just retire? Should we say, actually, do you know what? We've had James Bond for almost 100 years. Actually, should we let this character rest for at least a bit of time, or maybe just retire the character before it gets destroyed by modern reinventions of it?
Well, I think there's always going to be a market. There's always going to be an audience for James Bond if those films are made the correct way. I mean, you've got a perfect blueprint. If you look at the Bond films in the 60s, and you follow that as a blueprint, you can't go wrong, because most of them are based on Ian Fleming, and it's the best Bond films are the ones that are based on Fleming's books quite closely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first. GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at. Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning, 9:30 on Thursday, the 25th of September, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, claims MPs have urged him to take on Sir Keir Starmer and challenge the Prime Minister for the Labour Party leadership. And in a bombshell interview today, he doesn't rule it out. Well, we'll be speaking to a Cabinet Minister, Steve Reid, shortly.
And get this, foreign criminals are being offered up to £2,000, paid for by you, the taxpayer, if they agree to being deported back to their home countries. Even the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, admits it doesn't look good. That's an understatement.
And anti-ICE messages are found on bullets used in a shooting at an immigration centre in Dallas, an attack condemned by the FBI Director and Senator Ted Cruz.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong.
And if you were younger, are you more worried? Under Labour, we would reveal the staggering number of Brits that have been signing on to disability benefits for anxiety every day since Keir Starmer's lot came into power.
Andrew, we just mentioned this awful shooting at an immigration centre in America, and there's pictures in the papers today of some of the bullets, the unused bullets that were found with the gunman, and it says anti-ICE. I think that stands for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. That's this programme that Trump's using to expel hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of illegal immigrants, and the left are up in arms about that policy.
Extraordinary. Well, knowing Trump, that will make him even more determined to deport even more. We've got a big immigration story to talk to you about this morning here, because there's been a big surge in migrants crossing the Channel, and we're going to tell you about the latest twist in the one in, one out policy.
They were up to 3 in, 3 out now. A family of 3 have been flown over from France as part of that deal. But we don't know anything about them, nationality, that's all being kept secret. And of course, we assume they entered France illegally. So even though they're coming here with the blessing of the French government, well, we'll be discussing all that.
We certainly will. We'd like to hear, of course, what you think about all these issues. Send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. The top story just after 9:30. Jaguar Land Rover remains crippled by last month's cyber attack, with factories shut and losses toppling 50 million a week. Ministers are weighing emergency measures to prop up suppliers at risk of collapse as unions warn tens of thousands of jobs hang in the balance. At the United Nations, Donald Trump is demanding an investigation into what he calls triple sabotage, an escalator failure, a broken teleprompter and audio glitches during his speech. He's accused UN staff of a deliberate plot, calling it a disgrace. Andy Burnham says Labour MPs have urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for leadership. The Manchester Mayor hasn't ruled it out, saying Labour faces an existential threat. The Home Office appeal begins today over the terror ban on Palestine Action. His co-founder argues that the move breaches her right to free expression. Science Minister Patrick Vallance warns NHS drug prices must rise to stop pharma giants abandoning the UK, even as Moderna invests £1 billion in Oxfordshire. And the Co-op has revealed a half-year loss of £75 million, blaming April's cyber attack that stole data from 6.5 million members. Those are the headlines for now. A full roundup at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And Andrew, yesterday you picked up on a story that had just broken about convicted Romanian criminals who are being deported back to Romania and given £2,000 of cash when they arrived back in their home country.
This is to make sure they go quietly, don't cause a scene, don't run off the plane, and it also means you don't have to pay the cost of security guards on the plane. I don't care what the justification, but that story is now it's in all the papers today. There's a big fuss about it. The Home Secretary says it looks bad. It looks terrible. And I keep thinking about the winter fuel allowance, Miriam. The difficulties the government got into that by withdrawing it. Some pensioners will be really nervous about putting on the heating this winter.
Yeah.
How are they going to feel to know a convicted rapist from Romania gets on a plane back to his home country, being deported, with £2,000 of taxpayers' money?
Cash back once you land.
Cash back, yeah.
But Shabana Mahmood's she's agreed, the new Home Secretary, that it looks terrible, but she's made the point that if you keep foreign national offenders in British jails, you're looking at £50,000 plus a year cost to the taxpayer. Wouldn't you rather incentivise them to return home for £2,000? A huge saving. And she's absolutely right. But the problem is the fairness aspect of it will really infuriate people on top of all the other immigration problems that we've got.
And look, if they're being deported, just put them in leg irons and stick them on the plane and out.
I think the airlines don't like that, do they?
Well,
it ruins the holiday mood.
Too bad.
But
I think it's got to stop. I think it sickens me to the stomach, actually.
I'm really interested to find out
one of the people who got this money was a murderer.
I know, it's insane.
A murderer?
I mean, even if it does save money, it's just completely immoral.
A rapist, £2,000 is between £1,500 and £2,000. To be fair to this government, they didn't invent it. They started on Tony Blair's watch.
That's right, it's been going for
2006.
20 years or something, yeah.
And Blair was supposed to be tough on crime and tough on the cause of crime.
I'm quite interested to see how Shabana Mahmood gets on. So there's two big pieces about her in the papers today, saying that she really is tough. She really does want to crack down on this. She's the best chance that Labour have got of sorting out immigration. And she already has rewritten the rules on modern slavery, which was why they did eventually win that court case and get the Eritrean deported. So, let's hold out some hope, maybe. Exactly.
Now, to our top story. Andy Burnham, who is the Mayor of Greater Manchester, starred as the King of the North, very popular Labour activist. He's done a major interview today where he claims MPs, Labour, are privately pressing him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the leadership of the party. Slightly difficult because he hasn't got a common seat.
No, it's a small problem, Andrew, a small problem.
Yeah.
Well, in an exclusive interview with The Telegraph, Andy Burnham refused to rule out a return to Westminster ahead of May's local elections. Really, it's been his most direct hint yet.
Yeah. He's criticised the Prime Minister as well, claiming he'd created a climate of fear among MPs. And this is just, of course, on the eve of the Labour Party conference, which ought to have been a victory rally, because it's only the second Labour conference since they won that landslide election victory last July. Yeah, indeed. Well, we're joined now to discuss this by former Labour advisor Paul Richards. Paul, good morning. This is not the headline that the Labour Party was hoping for going into this big conference this weekend.
No, it certainly isn't. And I blame Andy Burnham 100% for this. He is obviously just sort of stoking this up. He's claiming there are these MPs. I'd love to see their names because none of the MPs I talk to think this is a realistic prospect. I think Andy's doing a fabulous job as Mayor of Manchester. But that's the job he needs to carry on doing as he said he would. So this is an entire distraction. And it's, as Andrew says, our conference, I wouldn't say it was going to be a victory rally, but it is certainly a serious week of hard work. And this serves merely to distract us completely.
It's also, the Telegraph last Saturday ran a story saying Andy Burnham will stage a leadership bid. And I then read it in the Sunday papers. Andy Burnham was very cross about this story because he hasn't got a seat and he's concentrating on being the mayor. 5 days later, he's given an interview and all but admitted, if he can, he will be staging a leadership bid. But how difficult, Paul, is it for a Labour challenger to take on a Labour leader and Prime Minister?
Well, it's virtually impossible. I mean, for a start off, even if he was a member of Parliament, it would be virtually impossible. But the small detail that people might miss is that he's not a member of Parliament. He's got the same chance as you or me at the moment because you have to be a Labour MP to be the leader of the Labour Party. So what would that mean? Well, some other MP, perhaps voluntarily giving up their seat. Well, that's even the people being named as possibilities have denied that. Then getting elected in a by-election, and we all know how hard that is right now for Labour. So are there any safe Labour seats? I'm not sure right now on the current polling. Then getting into the Parliamentary Labour Party and then getting enough of them to nominate him, and the threshold will be high because we've changed the rules. So maybe, I don't know, is it 80 maybe Labour MPs? 80? I don't think he's got anything like that support in the Parliamentary Labour Party. He'll be furious with him for disrupting and derailing the government. And then he has to go to the membership and the unions who've rejected him twice already when he stood for leader. And I would say even more importantly than the constitutional barriers are the fact his prospectus is a kind of return to soggy, soft left, putting up taxes, the kind of Ed Miliband agenda that was rejected so decisively before. So I just think it's an absolute non-runner, and therefore he needs to carry on doing the brilliant job he's doing in Manchester.
The problem is, Paul, that Labour MPs are happy. They are frightened. They're looking at the poll ratings. I mean, it's so reminiscent of the Conservative Party a year and a half ago under Rishi Sunak, people looking at the polls, plummeting down to the 20 mark, terrible negative personal ratings for the Prime Minister. And they're wondering how we're going to get through the next 4 years, let alone win the next general election. And they're thinking perhaps a new leader is the answer to that. Whether Burnham stands or not, those questions are not going to go away, are they?
Well, Miriam, I think you're absolutely right to compare it to that period of Conservative government, but surely the lesson of that period is that you can't just keep swapping your leaders in the hope that something will get better down the line, because Conservatives changed 3 times and then got absolutely wiped out in the general election. And that was one of the reasons why that people didn't like all the chopping and the changing. So the lesson I draw from that is that you need unity. You need to,
but Paul,
circle the wagons around Starmer and carry on to the election.
Unity around what? And again, it's exactly the same problem that the Conservative face. You couldn't have genuine unity because half the party believed in one particular ideology and the other half believed in another one. Unity is impossible in that situation. Is it not exactly the same in the Labour Parliamentary Party right now?
No, it's not as anywhere near a split. Now, of course, you are right. There is an amount of disquiet, and then we have had some rebellions around things like welfare, but it's not ideologically split. It's about tactics. It's about the best way forward. But there are these fundamental, seismic splits as there are on the right, particularly in the Conservative Party. And don't forget, most of the MPs there have won their seats for the first time last year with Starmer as leader. You could say that they owe their seats to him getting Labour over the line to a majority. So I just think Andy Burnham, he'll be feted at conferences. There'll be lots of people wanting to have a selfie with him. He's, the star moment is there. But I just think as a serious prospect of defenestrating a successful Labour Prime Minister, becoming an MP and then becoming the Prime Minister off the back of that before the next election, absolutely for the birds.
And Paul, just explain to us, people listening might be confused, because Starmer did lead Labour to an enormous victory, the most decisive landslide since 2001. How has it gone so wrong for him so quickly with so many of his Labour MPs, trade union leaders and activists?
I mean, my analysis is that it's because he's doing the really difficult, tough stuff early in the Parliament. And, the tax rises, for example, which we know cause howls of outrage, and some of the longer term things around economic growth and house building and the energy market, Sizewell C and Heathrow and some of these big things. You don't get any plaudits for that kind of 10-year planning, but you do get it down the line. Maybe some future Prime Minister will be able to, top out the Heathrow airport and say, look at what a great job. But it'll be Starmer's decisions that have made that. So in the short term, you have to risk unpopularity to get the long-term things right. Now, my argument, and I've been making it all this week, is that Labour needs to also do some things that are popular in the short term now, because people are very unforgiving and they will drift away, and that's what the opinion polls suggest. So may be some things in the short term just to keep people happy and show that the change that they voted for so emphatically is in fact happening.
What would be the short-term fix you would recommend?
Well, let's get the potholes fixed. Let's get some more coppers on the street. Let's fix things. Well, small boats obviously has to be fixed. Any government is going to get killed by that issue if it's still an issue at the next election. We need to sort out the shoplifting that everyone sees in the high street. jobs for young people. You're talking later, I think, about the number of people who are signed off sick who are, young, fit young people who have got anxiety. So all of those things that just make a real difference to people's pockets, people's communities, that you can deliver without great big 10-year plans. I think that's the sort of bread and butter stuff that people appreciate. And, if Labour can deliver those small changes in the half inch where we all live, then I think the people will come back at the next election.
And there has been a small bounce in the polls for Labour. A poll out yesterday showed the party up 3 points, narrowing the gap on Reform, who are down 2, I think. I mean, is this a result of Starmer's handling of the state visit with Trump last week? Have Reform made a mistake over the indefinite leave to remain, or is this just a blip?
Well, it might be a blip, let's find out, but it might be a trend. And I think the state visit was plainly a triumph of geopolitics and diplomacy. I mean, plenty of people on the left, it really stuck in the craw for us to be kind of, as a nation, sucking up, basically, to Donald Trump. But, oh boy, didn't it pay off, and that's obviously the way to handle this particular president. And I think it was just a wonderful moment. It's the sort of thing only the British, I think, can do, the sort of state visit with all the kind of, the marching bands and the castles and the king and all the rest. Absolutely fantastic. So it might be partly that. Also, when Reform go under the spotlight, under the microscope on their policies, as what happened 2 days ago, often it does start to disintegrate a bit. And certainly the policy on immigration felt a bit in real time because the numbers it was based on were not correct. So, if you want to pretend to the throne, if you want to be a potential prime minister and a potential government, you've got to have policies that withstand scrutiny. And I don't think they managed that this week. And I think maybe the public sensed a little bit of that as well, that, behind the slogan, maybe there isn't the substance.
Interesting. Paul Richards, thanks for joining us, a former Labour advisor, Paul Richards, who I think always talks a lot of sense.
Yes,
Paul Richards
very
really does. And I do wonder, I think it could be a blip, the poll, but I do think, give credit to Starmer, it was a success, the state visit, wasn't it?
It was. I think they're more split, though, than he said. Anyway, we shall see.
You're right. Now, still ahead. Foreign criminals
paid thousands of pounds to agree to be deported, and illegal migrants are getting taxpayer-funded taxes. Why are Brits always at the back of the queue?
And before that, is Lib Dem leader Ed Davey clueless about his voters? That's what our next guest believes. But first, if you want some of that elusive holiday sun, here it is.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The heaviest and most thundery rain that's been affecting parts of Central Europe through recent days, that's now starting to ease. But nonetheless, a fair few showers across parts of Greece and nearby countries as we go through Friday. A few showery bursts still across Italy, could still be quite heavy towards the north. Meanwhile, further west across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine, albeit with a few showery bursts pushing towards Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of fine weather for most of us through into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's our notes, isn't it? So why shouldn't the public have to say on who's on notes? And we've had Shakespeare, of course, and we've had Winston Churchill, but let's have something a bit more up to date.
David Attenborough.
A brilliant idea.
Thank you.
Brilliant idea.
No, I've just come up with that, and I thought that was quite good. And then they also encourage ideas, nature, don't they? So I thought maybe some acorns.
Why not a beaver?
A beaver is a great idea, Claire.
You still cannot pass a Scottish note in anywhere in England, and for fear it will not be accepted as legal tender.
It is legal tender.
Of course,
but it is legal. Yeah, it is legal tender, same as an Ulster note.
Yeah, and see the minute they start to hold it up in the air, I'm like, I'm going to get you.
It's legal tender.
It's legal tender.
I prefer to use cash in most cases, OK? But we're finding that more and more people are not actually using cash, and then the Bank of Wokery have now said, let's get rid of the historical
features on it, and let's move on with something more modern.
No,
so I'm glad
see,
you like that,
They
Norman.
want to get rid of it because it gives them control, it gives governments control, that they can see everything you're spending, everything you're doing, and how you're spending it. And I think it's really creepy.
So do I.
The other thing that's wrong with it, actually, buying by card, is that the people who own the transaction between the retailer and the customer are all American companies.
Yeah.
And they take a rake off of about 1%, 2% for nothing.
Do you remember?
That's all money going out the country.
Right, and by the time it's passed on, if you tap and go, then it's diminished, whereas if you had the physical £10, it's still £10.
Well, it's interesting that we three would like the feel of notes. And
I like the feel of notes as well.
That's four of us.
I feel rich when I've got cash in my
Younger
pocket.
people in general, I mean, I couldn't give my kids money. You say...
You can give me money anytime.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, the Lib Dem leader Ed Davies revealed his grand plan to win over what he calls the millions of disenchanted Tory moderates.
But does the Liberal Democrat leader really know his voting population, and could he win them over? Well, joining us now in the studio, we've got the head of political economy for the think tank Onward UK, Gavin Rice, who says the Lib Dem leader is clueless. Good morning, Gavin.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So, Ed Davey thinks there are many, many Tory voters out there who are just waiting to switch Lib Dem at the next election. Is he right?
No, he's absolutely wrong. In fact, lots of people don't realise that the Liberal Democrats actually lost around 100,000 votes at the last election relative to where they were in 2019. So Ed Davey was actually a less popular leader of the Liberal Democrats than Joe Swinson was.
It was awful.
Yes, no, exactly. So they've actually gone backwards. And I think what Ed Davey is doing is he is making a very similar mistake to a mistake that actually a lot of Conservative MPs have been making as well, which is to assume that there was a mass exodus of what he calls moderate, but he basically means more affluent, professional, more socially liberal, maybe anti-Brexit people in the home counties from the Tories to the Lib Dems in 2024. This is basically untrue. These people essentially do not exist. What's going on is that they won a large number of seats at the last election, but under first past the post, you can do that without winning many more votes, because essentially the Tories were losing votes left, right and centre, especially to Reform, and the Liberal Democrats, especially in the home counties and the West Country, were coming through the middle. So they gained 60 new seats, but very few new voters. So I think these people that Ed Davey is talking about don't really exist.
So what messages should the Tory leadership take from this?
Well, I think what we saw after the 2024 disaster for the Conservatives was a little bit of cope from MPs who wanted something to be true, and they wanted it to be true that the electorate wanted David Cameron 2.0, they wanted 2010 to 2015, they wanted George Osborne, but actually that was completely untrue. The Liberal Democrats only took 7% of the Conservative vote share versus a whopping 23% that went to Reform. The organisation that I work for, Onward, did a huge post-election study looking at exactly where the vote went and asking people why they voted the way that they did. The very small number of people who did switch directly from the Tories to the Lib Dems at the last election are nothing like your kind of classic sandal-wearing, Guardian-reading Lib Dem voter at all. They are actually largely, I suppose, what you would have called in the old days lower middle class, non-graduates, living in smaller, more provincial towns, and actually, on balance, voted for Brexit at the last election. So they're very unlike a classic Lib Dem voter. What was really going on is that they were largely just voting to get the Tories out.
Yeah. And had they been in other seats, they might have picked another party as the tactical vote.
Yeah.
Now, the Conservatives, really, really briefly, we've only got 30 seconds, but last government, the government refused to do things that we would have said are sensible, stop the boats, because they're worried about Lib Dem switching. But you're saying they've already switched.
They've already gone. The Lib Dems that have gone to the Tories went in 2017 or 2019. They're not coming back, but also Ed Davey can't win those people twice.
Gavin Rice.
Fascinating research.
Very
actually.
important message, I think.
Really, yeah. Kemi Bainer, I hope you're watching and listening, because it's important what we just heard.
Well, don't go anywhere. Fury over that Afghan dinghy migrant. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Another fine day for many of us today. In fact, there could be more sunshine on offer than we've seen through some recent days, albeit with a bit of a breeze towards the southeast and also the far northwest. Otherwise, generally light winds and, like I said, lots of sunshine, lots of blue sky, just a little bit of cloud bubbling up here and there. With the sunshine, where you get it, it is going to feel relatively warm. Temperatures peaking in the high teens, possibly even just about scraping into the low 20s Celsius, obviously feeling a bit fresher towards the southeast and northwest where we have that brisk breeze. Later on as we go through this evening, staying largely fine. There's some clouds nearby to the far northwest of Scotland, but not really expecting that to make much headway in, so really it's going to be a dry end to the day across Scotland with some late sunshine as well. A similar story across much of Northern Ireland and across the bulk of England and Wales as well. Some late sunshine here, albeit with a little bit of cloud perhaps pushing across parts of Lincolnshire and some thicker cloud around Kent. Maybe one or two showery bursts mixed in with this as well. Then as we go overnight, a little bit more patchy cloud will come in from the east at times. Most places though staying dry with clear skies, and similar to recent nights with the clear skies and mostly light winds, again we're going to see our temperatures taking a bit of a drop. Towns and cities, yes, generally holding up in the mid to high single figures, but away from the more built up areas, temperatures will drop close to, if not a little bit below freezing, so a fresh, chilly, maybe even frosty start to the day for many of us tomorrow. Then through tomorrow, more cloud coming in from eastern parts, and where it's thick enough, a few spots of rain here and there. Further west, staying dry, brighter and often quite sunny, but worth bearing in mind there is a band of rain out to the west of us. This is going to arrive in time for the weekend, so most of us will see a bit of rain on Saturday. Temperatures tomorrow, well, not quite as high as today because of the thicker cloud pushing in.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A76 is closed near Carron Bridge due to a road traffic incident. Motorists should use the diversion route and allow extra time. In Manchester, the M60 between junctions 8 and 9 is delayed due to an accident with all lanes closed. Hampshire's A36 southbound is shut between the A3090 and the M27 because of an accident involving a vehicle that left the road. And on the trains, Elna services face disruptions between Stirling and Perth, while Northern has buses replacing trains between Corkickle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Thursday the 25th of September. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So the Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham claims MPs, Labour MPs that is, have urged him to take on Sir Keir Starmer and challenge him for the Labour Party leadership. And in a bombshell interview today, he hasn't ruled it out. We're going to be speaking to a cabinet minister who wants to put Mr Burnham back in his box.
And fury as Afghan dinghy migrant given refuge in the UK goes on an 8-week holiday to the apparently dangerous Afghanistan that he'd fled. Once again, are we worried about who's in charge of the Home Office?
An anti-immigration enforcement message has been found on bullets used in the latest shooting at an immigration centre in Dallas, an attack condemned by the FBI director and the local senator, Ted Cruz.
Needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong.
And are you more worried under the Labour government? We'll reveal the staggering number of Brits that have been signing on to disability benefits for anxiety every day since Labour came to power.
Well, this is not the preparation they wanted for the Labour conference, is it? They've got this
not.
ongoing controversy over Morgan McSweeney, who's the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, about whether he should or shouldn't have declared £700,000 of donations. Big questions over him. But Andy Burnham, the prince across the water, clearly teasing the Prime Minister, hinting that he would run for the leadership. He hasn't got a parliamentary seat.
No.
But if he gets one...
Yeah, there'll be trouble. And, of course, he's a very experienced politician. He's been around a long time. He's very well known. He's seen as someone with experience and, you know, mixed opinions about whether or not he's done a good job in Manchester, but nevertheless, huge name recognition. In the north. So Starmer will be very worried. But like our guest was saying, there's no clear mechanism for him becoming an MP. So perhaps the discontent will just fester.
And a lot of people think it's time Labour had a leader from the north, because you think the last one, Starmer, North London MP, Jeremy Corbyn, North London MP. Before that, Ed Miliband, North London MP.
Yes,
the metropolitan elite.
It was Gordon Brown, who was Scottish, was probably the last. That was a long time ago.
Exactly. Well, we want to know, as always, what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. The top story this hour. Ministers are weighing up emergency support for Jaguar Land Rover suppliers after a cyber attack shut down production last month. The hack forced JLR to suspend its IT systems, halting output at 3 UK plants until at least October. Unions say the disruption, costing £50 million a week, threatens tens of thousands of jobs. Options on the table include government-backed loans or even stockpiling car parts to keep smaller firms afloat. Donald Trump is demanding an investigation into what he's calling triple sabotage at the United Nations General Assembly. The US president says an escalator suddenly stopped as he and the First Lady stepped on. His teleprompter failed mid-speech and the auditorium's audio cut out. On Truth Social, Trump blasted the incidents as a real disgrace and called for arrests, saying the Secret Service is now involved. UN officials, though, insist safety mechanisms and the US equipment were to blame, not sabotage. Here, Andy Burnham has said that MPs have privately urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the Labour leadership. The Manchester mayor told the Daily Telegraph he's not plotting a return to Westminster, but didn't rule out standing. Burnham, who has twice lost leadership bids, said he's ready to play any role as Labour faces what he called an existential threat. His comments come ahead of Labour's conference and after criticism of Sir Keir Starmer over Angela Rayner's resignation and Peter Mandelson's recent sacking. The Home Office's appeal over the terror ban on Palestine Action will be heard in London today. Co-founder Huda Amori is challenging former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's decision to proscribe the group, making support for it punishable by up to 14 years in prison. A High Court judge has previously ruled that Amori had reasonably arguable grounds to claim the ban was disproportionate and breached natural justice. The case follows the group's claim of responsibility for damaging 2 RAF planes in June. The appeal will be heard before Lady Chief Justice and 2 senior judges. The NHS may have to pay more for medicines to keep pharmaceutical investment here in the UK, according to Science Minister Patrick Vallance. He says drug prices must rise after AstraZeneca pulled back more than £1.2 billion in projects this month. Vallance has made the comments as the launch of Moderna's £1 billion Oxfordshire centre, which will make millions of vaccines. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says talks with the industry on drug pricing remain live, both at home and with the US. Denmark has been hit by a hybrid attack carried out by a professional actor after drones forced Aalborg Airport to close overnight. Flights were diverted and 3 other airports also reported sightings. The Danish Prime Minister has warned that the most severe attack on Danish infrastructure has taken place, with Russian involvement not ruled out. It follows recent Russian jets breaching Estonian airspace and drones crossing into Poland and Romania. NATO has said Moscow bears full responsibility and has vowed to defend its members with all necessary tools. And the Co-op has plunged to a £75 million half-year loss after what it called a malicious cyber attack in April. Hackers stole the personal data of all 6.5 million members, forcing it to shut down systems and leaving shoppers facing empty shelves and payment chaos. The attack wiped more than £200 million off sales and $20 million in one-off costs. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, this is an extraordinary video. If you're listening on the radio, British tourists watched on in horror as migrants invaded a resort in Spain, leading to a fight which left 1 person dead. A guest in the hotel called Joseph shared this clip exclusively with the Daily Mail. Have a look.
Well, we can see on that picture a number of migrants seen jumping off a boat, swimming onto the beach before they run through the hotel's courtyard to get to the other side of the property. And then this fatal fight allegedly broke out between the men that had crossed on the boat. And quite a frightening experience, I think, for the hotel residents. Yeah, but it just shows, doesn't it, that we think we've got a problem here. This is pretty Europe-wide. I mean, we haven't seen that happen here yet. No, I mean, people in Kent do report migrants turning up on the beaches, but of course, most of the time, our border forces do actually pick them up in the channel and bring them at least so that they can be registered. And really, another problem for this government and for people living in Kent, border force staff are balloting to go on industrial action. But anyway, I mean... More strikes? Yeah, and who will operate the Uber service for the migrants then? Well, quite. The Royal Navy? Quite. Well, they tried that very briefly, didn't they? But it was not popular with the Royal Navy, probably very popular with the population. Well, we're joined now by migration and security expert Henry Bolton. Henry, good morning. These are quite worrying pictures from the south coast of Spain. It really does emphasise that this is a Europe-wide problem, doesn't it?
It does, Miriam. And I've long said that one of the things that we need to get better at is working with other countries in the European region to try and address the problem more strategically. We're working with the French, but the French, as we know, I mean, we can recall the Brexit campaign in which we were saying we want to take back control of our borders. We haven't done that, so it's quite obvious we haven't done that. But one of the reasons that that was an important part of the campaign is because Brussels, the European Union, the European Commission, has a significant say on how the external borders of the European Union are managed and run, how the security is run and so on. And those countries in the European Union who are on the sort of on the edge of the Union are in a constant struggle with the European Commission to go forward. So, instead of working just with the French, who are limited in that way as to how they can respond, we need to be working with all European allies and friends, because it is a Europe-wide, in fact, it's beyond Europe problem, and we need to be securing Europe as the continent of Europe, not just the UK. And that then acts as a filter for the channel. And what you were just saying, the footage that you just showed, I myself have twice come across people who've very obviously just landed by boat on the shores of Kent. I live down in Kent, near Folkestone, and they've been up on the hills above Kent in groups, in one case of about 8 and the other case of about a dozen. They're quite clearly trying to orientate themselves. You ring 999, there's an eventual response, but far too late because they've all disappeared into the woods. Now, that's a little time ago, and that problem has reduced because there are more interceptions in the channel, which means that we're able to sort of track these people a little bit better. But I have no doubt that people are still arriving that aren't interdicted by Border Force. So there is a problem, and all it takes, frankly, I mean, a lot of these people come from societies where violence is commonplace. They've grown up with it, and you can look at why that may be. You can go into all of that, but there is that does not alleviate the risk that there is to members of the public confronting these individuals, because if these individuals feel that they're cornered, they may well fight. They may well be armed with knives or whatever. They can cause injury, and they will be a great deal more aggressive than your average member of the public in the UK. So there is a problem there, and there is a threat to public safety. There's a raft of these issues, but your main point is absolutely valid. This is a Europe-wide problem. It is not just the European Union that needs to deal with this. It is all of the nations of continental Europe. This is a problem coming from Africa and from the Far East and from the Near East and from areas of Central Asia and so on. So we've got to work together on it. And I've always argued that the UK, outside the European Union, would be in a position, if we had any strategic vision and acumen here, to actually initiate this and take the lead on it. In the European Union, we wouldn't be able to, because we'd have to defer to the coordinating guidance of the European Commission.
Well, Henry, let me interrupt you there. What would you propose that we do to take that strategic lead when we've got a story on the front page of the Sun today, an Afghan refugee who crossed the Channel illegally, been given asylum here. He's gone on holiday to Afghanistan, which he fled because of persecution for 2 months. I mean, the system is descending into farce and chaos. So what strategic thing should the Home Office or Border Force be doing?
In a sense, this is not a Home Office or Border Force problem strategically. It is a whole of government problem. Right. Intelligence services, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, the Ministry of Defence, all need to be engaged on this. Now, when I've worked with other countries to develop national border strategies, to really look at this strategically, it has required a coordinating body across government. In every case, I've written or helped 14 countries to write national strategies. In all but one case, we established a national borders coordinator who was empowered by the very highest level in most of them were presidential governments, and by presidential decree, a national borders coordinator was appointed with the authority from the president to coordinate all arms of government, all branches of government, from local government all the way through up to major departments such as defence and home affairs, to coordinate all of that, to develop a national strategy. And every country is slightly different. The dynamics it faces, the threats it faces in terms of its borders are all slightly different. They're regional, they're local. And so do a thorough assessment of that and respond. Now, of course, there are things that we can do in the meantime. And, you know, first of all, we ought to be sitting down with Europeans and say, hold a conference in London and say, right, and people will say, well, it's no good talking about it. But at that level, we have to talk about how we're going to start cooperating on this. There is a framework in the OSCE, it's in the Organisation for Security. There are various existing platforms that we can use, is the bottom line. We are failing to use it because our Foreign Office and our government is simply not aware of it ever since Tony Blair brought in mobility in the civil service, which means nobody's in the job long enough to actually understand what that job entails and what the facilities are out there. You know, I'll give you a quick example because you'll be limited on time, I'm sure, but there is something called the OSCE Border Security and Management Contact Point Network. Now, when I set that up, it was 41 countries then. Every country, bar the UK, sent the chief executive or a director from its various border agencies, including the Vatican, to sit around the table and work out common strategies to deal with 21st century threats of this nature. The UK sent a desk officer from the Foreign Office, a junior desk officer, who was basically a note taker, had no authority or knowledge, or it wasn't simply high enough in the food chain, that's not their fault, to engage in serious conversation. They just didn't have, they weren't equipped to do it. And they didn't have any decision-making ability or reach back to ministers back in the UK. So you're on a failing to absolutely nothing. You're heading for nothing when you're responding in that way. So there's all of that. I mean, I could talk forever. Border force needs
just briefly on that, Henry. Which government was that under when they didn't take this initiative seriously and sent a junior desk officer? Was it under the Tories or this lot?
That was 2007 or 8, I think.
So Blair.
Yes.
And he created a lot of this in the first place.
He absolutely did. He was the one who brought, who I think, he and then followed up by Brown, devastated the civil service and meant that we lost the expertise and the experience to do things like this and to think strategically. He's the one who opened the floodgates to immigration. Particularly, we've got a problem still with Albanian organised crime, which he was told. I know he was told because I was part of the people I was one of the people consulted on it. He was told what the implications of opening the doors to Albanian refugees from the Balkans would be in terms of organised crime. That was ignored. He did it. And then we've got these sort of issues as well. Another story about which I think you covered earlier, about paying people to leave the UK. Yeah. That was a scheme brought in by Tony Blair as well. So, you know, all of this, some of it, if I'm honest, in the context of the time, made a little bit of sense. But again, it was poor decision-making with little to no strategic foresight. And that is the number one problem, frankly, not just in borders and immigration, but in healthcare, in education, in defence. This government and the previous governments for the last two, maybe 3 decades have failed to exercise any degree of strategic foresight or strategic planning. And we're paying the price for it now. I would suggest, they're not going to bring me in. I'm the former leader of UKIP. The Labour government's not going to bring me in to help. I'm sure I will do. I'll help if they ask, and I've offered, but no response. But I would say get in strategic and operational planners from the armed forces to actually look at this strategically. Not how do we deal with the boats, but deal with everything. How do we join government up here? How do we unify all of the efforts of every single branch of government at the local and national level to deliver on a set of strategic objectives in terms of securing our borders?
Henry, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. But Henry Bolton, thank you so much for your time this morning, and definitely food for thought.
And all of this goes back to that wretched Tony Blair.
Exactly. Well, don't go anywhere because the Army is aiming for 30% of their recruits to be female by 2030. But do we really need gender targets in our armed forces?
No. And also, Morgan McSweeney, he is the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, failed to declare almost £740,000 in gifts to Labour's campaign group. The controversy deepens and swirls around him. Can he survive much longer?
Well, you're watching Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, Dame Helen Mirren has said that despite being a feminist, she believes the next James Bond has to be a chap.
OK, she said that she believes it just doesn't work, and by having a woman as Bond, the project becomes something else entirely.
So we are asking the question, could Bond ever be a woman?
Well, we're joined by a former what is termed Bond girl, Jenny Hanley, and and there is... we weren't expecting you, but it's really 007 podcast contributor John Kell there as well. Jenny, you've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, been involved in it. What's your take?
I think James Bond has to be a male because he came from the imagination of Ian Fleming. If you want a female 007, don't ride on his coattails and take the fame that has come from his character, James Bond. Write your own.
Yeah, you see, that's what I tend to think. But
No, I just think that you just go 007. The problem is, right, the last Bond film, he died. James Bond died. I mean, there was a... Oh, sorry.
Great, I haven't seen that one.
Sorry, yeah. I think everybody pretty much now knows that he definitely... I mean, there was an absolutely... It wasn't even did he or didn't he, can he or can he not survive. It was 100% gone. So it's now time for a clean... The nice thing about a clean sheet, surely, John, is that you can actually go, right, so 007, let's do the 007, and then we can do different stories because the books that have been written by Ian Fleming have been well and truly milked, haven't they?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Well, it's 21 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
The panel's here. It is the broadcaster, Carol Malone, and journalist broadcaster, Carol Malone. What did I call you there?
You called me broadcaster and then slurred the rest.
Yes, sorry about that. The broadcaster, journalist, Carol Malone, and the commentator, Jonathan Liss. Very good to see you both. Andy Burnham. Now, you're a northerner, Malone.
Yes.
Is he the king of the north to
He's
you?
absolutely so not the king. He's not king of anything. He's, you know, this is a guy who has failed in the leadership of the party twice. And one of those times was to the loon Miliband. So if you can't beat Miliband, you literally can't beat anybody. Now, I don't...
Corbyn one time.
But I don't know why he thinks third time is going to be lucky. It really is. Now, but what he's saying is now, he's playing a very kind of crafty game. He's now been approached saying, have you been approached? And he's saying, yes, I have. And he's saying that he's got policies that he's going to run, and some of those policies are same old, higher council tax on expensive properties. He's going to 50p income tax on people. So it's no different to Starmer in this Labour Party. But anyway, but he hasn't got the guts to just leave the mayoralty in Manchester, because he has got a seat, of course. And he might not get a seat because the guy who was supposed to give him his seat is not going to. So he's going to have to fight for a seat. Then there's no guarantee he's going to win the leadership election with whoever.
There's also no guarantee of a safe Labour seat anymore.
There is
or
exactly
Tory
right.
seat.
Exactly.
Unless Lucy Powell swaps jobs with him because she might want to become Mayor of Manchester.
and obviously she's now campaigning to be deputy leader.
Well, so she stands down.
Well, look, these are just sort of rumours in Westminster that there might be a job swap somewhere, or maybe Angela Rayner. But Manchester Central, which is Lucy Powell's seat, very much is still a Labour.
But Angela's got a majority of 6,000. That's
I don't think that's as good.
But doesn't it show you how lost Labour is when they think a no-mark like Andy Burnham is going to save the Labour Party? Because he's really not. He's just Starmer with a northern accent.
No, I think that's unfair. Look, Andy Burnham is a charismatic. He's a charismatic politician.
You don't know him clearly.
He's very popular in Manchester. He's got a personal. He's got a personal. Of course, he is. He's got a personal mandate. He's, I think he's probably more. I'm not sure the polling actually, but I think he is as popular in Manchester as Sadiq Khan is in London.
He's more popular than
Sadiq Khan's not popular in London.
Exactly.
But he's won three times.
Doesn't mean he's popular. Look at the polls. Khan is not popular. In fact, yesterday, all of the Labour Party came out yesterday to support Khan, which I mean,
no politicians are popular. It's all relative, isn't it? Who's got the least negative?
Nigel Farage is pretty popular.
Yes, he is.
He's still not popular with most people.
He's still not. In absolute terms, he's not popular.
His party is
less unpopular.
Look, Andy Burnham would have won the 2015 leader election by country mile if it hadn't been for the Corbyn surge. So we just in a parallel universe, if Corbyn,
you can't say that.
Well, he would have. He came second, and he would have won.
Yeah, but he didn't. That's the point.
Well, yeah, exactly. What I'm saying is, he would have won. There was a time
he
where...
would have won if it had been raining. He would have won it if it had been sunny.
He would have won. He would have won if I was standing.
Yes, exactly.
He is a viable candidate. He was the shoe-in until Corbyn happened to get over the line for the threshold.
Part of the reason, but hang on, Jonathan. Part of the reason he didn't win was because he kept chopping and changing his policy position.
Corbyn was more popular at that time. What I'm saying is, the Burnham is, if you're looking for someone who can steady the ship and bring together a coalition, he is a soft left person who's going to present a kind of soft progressive platform that Starmer has failed to do.
You clearly can't remember Burnham when he actually had government jobs, when he was actually in government. He was not regarded as a powerhouse, as strong, as really good. He was regarded as a bit of a sop. And he's still a bit of a sop. Being mayor of Manchester is a big step away from being prime minister of a country. Maybe he's handling the mayor of Manchester, and you say he's very popular. That is not strictly true. There are a lot of people in Manchester in politics who don't think he's that good at all.
Well, of course he has opponents, Carol. I never said that he was running a one-party state.
You're saying he's madly popular. He's not that popular.
I'm saying he's popular, and he is running it well, and he has a personal mandate.
He's not a leader.
What about the strategy here? This is the eve of the Labour Party conference. This is when the party faithful gather. This is the time for Labour to showcase all the things it says it's going to be good for the country. It's very important politically for the Labour conference. This should be a gathering of a triumphant occasion. It's only 1 year after the landslide victory, and you've got the Mayor of Greater Manchester saying, I might challenge the Prime Minister. So, extraordinary politics. This party is descending into civil war.
This is something that I agree with you on, actually, that this is terrible for Starmer and it's terrible for Labour in general. I think that there is a kind of a panic, a real panic, setting in Labour now, that something has to change very, very fast. So I would say this would be a kind of make or break.
But this is not going to be very fast if Burnham gets it. They're talking about just before the May elections. But what I thought was interesting in that interview, he said that he talked about the alienation in the party and the demoralisation in the party and the fear within the party. He didn't talk about the British people. He didn't talk about the fear and the anger and the despair of the British people at what this government has done, which I thought was really telling.
What they are talking about, because obviously everyone wants to avoid civil war in the Labour Party.
But it's happening.
Well, it's happening.
But
as we
one
speak.
thing that I've heard being talked about is a kind of Granita-style deal, if you remember that famous Islington restaurant in 1994.
It's closed down, by the way.
Yeah, it closed down. It became a Mexican restaurant
for Labour.
But Blair and Brown obviously met in this place, and they agreed that Brown wouldn't challenge Blair for leadership, and then Blair would relinquish the
Where have you got this from, though? You and I were just talking about this outside. Where's this come from? Has this come out your head, or have you actually heard this?
I have heard it.
But I'm not
going to identify my sources live on television, Carol.
You haven't got a source for this. I don't believe it.
I just don't believe it. Lie, then, are you?
So what, you think there's going to be a...
No, I'm saying that people are talking about a possibility. Sorry.
Yes. Have you heard this?
No.
No.
Can I just explain what is the possibility? The possibility might be that
legislation was banned, none of us would have a job, so let's be honest.
Well, we are talking about a political intrigue story, so there's obviously going to be some hearsay, but Starmer would have to, the Labour leadership would probably have to approve Burnham standing in a by-election anyway.
Yes, they would.
And why would Starmer allow his chief rival into the poll? So the idea is that Burnham would agree not to challenge Starmer for the first term, and then Starmer would hand over the race. That's what people are talking about.
It's not going to be a second term for Labour.
No.
That's insanity.
Before the election, Carol.
The person, though, that many in Labour were relying on to stop this from happening in the first place or to reset the government was Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff in Number 10. And now he... That's what I did there. And now he is in trouble, isn't he?
I think, I am not a big fan of his style of advice, shall we say.
Just remind people who he is. He's the Chief of Staff.
Morgan McSweeney is the Dominic Cummings of the Starmer government. So he's the kind of, not Rasputin figure exactly, he would like to be maybe, but he's the head honcho, the
Ministers would say he's actually the Prime Minister.
Right, so this is the problem. He is taking Starmer, and by extension the government, down a dead end, which is to appeal solely to a cohort of voters who are never going to support Labour. That is, people who are already on the reform bandwagon. So that's why he's completely alienating centrists. He's alienating people on the left. That's why...
But why is he...
But we're going off...
He's in political trouble
is in the news
because
now.
he's under investigation.
Because he's under investigation because he didn't declare 740 grand's worth of donations, both donations and in kind. He was pretending that it was an administrative error, but it's been made clear by emails that have been released today and some yesterday that it was made absolutely clear to him that he had to declare these donations, and he didn't do that. So he clearly thinks he's above the law and doesn't have to do it. And what that means is that Starmer's path to downership was funded by an illegal political slush fund, nearly £1 million. Now, remember, Starmer was the man who stood up before the election and said, we're going to clean up politics. Labour will end the politics of the chaos of sleaze, I think he said. And here we are. This government has never been more mired in sleaze than it is now. Every week there's another crisis, there's another scandal, and this is the latest one. And McSweeney is the one who's running this country now, according to Labour ministers, not Starmer. It's him. And if he goes, which he may well have to after all of this, what the hell is going to happen to this government?
Well, look,
you'd like him to go.
I think those are valid points, but speaking as someone on the left, centre-left, who actually wants the Labour government to succeed, I see McSweeney as kryptonite for this government and for the government's programme. So actually, if you did have, and I don't know exactly what happened, but it doesn't look great from these stories.
Well, we know what's happened, Jonathan.
Well,
you keep doing this. We know what's happened. It's been documented. We've seen the emails.
Okay, well,
he was told by his own lawyer to pretend it was an administrative error.
Well, I mean, if a lawyer suggested that, I mean, it must have been...
No, but the Electoral Commission...
I think the lawyer said, if you can't find record of a call in which you were told that you no longer did need to declare the donations, because although it was a membership organisation, it wasn't at the time a campaigning organisation, then probably you should say it's an administrative error if you don't have any other explanation. I think
this should be pointed out. This is the same lawyer as a guy called Gerald Shamas. He's the one who actually... he reported Boris to the Metropolitan Police.
Well, he is Labour's in-house lawyer, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in the House of Lords.
Yes.
We're going to have to leave it there for this hour, but we'll have you back next hour.
We have to read a statement from Labour Together. This is this organisation that did not declare the money it should have declared. Labour Together proactively raised concern about its own reporting of donations to the Electoral Commission in 2020. Investigations with which Labour Together fully cooperated was completed in 2021. The outcome was made public.
And a spokesman for the Electoral Commission said it had thoroughly investigated the late reporting of donations by Labour Together in 2021. He added, "We were satisfied that the evidence proved beyond reasonable doubt that failures by the association occurred without reasonable excuse. Offences were determined and they were sanctioned accordingly."
The key is whether new information has come to light, which will require another investigation.
I'm sure the man
he's in real
trouble.
trouble.
But we heard yesterday that McSweeney is actually resisting an investigation. How can you resist an investigation?
Well, you can't if the Electoral Commission decide to do when they do. Now, moving on, we're going to get our 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Well, breaking in the last few minutes, the Crown Court backlog in England and Wales has hit a record high, now more than 78,000 cases. The Justice Secretary David Lammy says the figures lay bare unacceptable waits for victims, with some trials now listed for 2029. Andy Burnham says Labour MPs have urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the leadership. The Manchester mayor hasn't ruled it out, saying Labour faces an existential threat. At the UN, Donald Trump is demanding an investigation into what he calls triple sabotage, an escalator failure, a broken teleprompter and audio glitches during his speech. He's accused UN staff of a deliberate plot, calling it a disgrace. Here, Jaguar Land Rover remains crippled by last month's cyber attack, with factories shut and losses toppling £50 million a week. Ministers are weighing emergency measures to prop up suppliers at risk of collapse. The Home Office appeal begins today over the terror ban of Palestine Action. Its co-founder argues the move breaches her right to free expression. And the Co-op has revealed a half-year loss of £75 million, blaming April's cyber attack that stole data from 6.5 million of its members. Those are the headlines for now. I'll have a full roundup for you at 11.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, welcome back. It's 10:34 and you're watching Britain's Newsroom.
Well, a shocking sex dossier into the army has been exposed after being suppressed since 2022.
Yes, the report found that female soldiers would lock themselves in their rooms for fear of being sexually assaulted.
The army is now aiming for 30% of recruits to be female by 2030. Hope is that at this level there'll be enough women to change this rather macho culture. But we're asking, do we need these gender targets?
That's after the break.
Good morning, I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Another fine day for many of us today. In fact, there could be more sunshine on offer than we've seen through some recent days, albeit with a bit of a breeze towards the southeast and also the far northwest. Otherwise, generally light winds and, like I said, lots of sunshine, lots of blue sky, just a little bit of cloud bubbling up here and there. With the sunshine, where you get it, it is going to feel relatively warm. Temperatures peaking in the high teens, possibly even just about scraping into the low 20s Celsius, obviously feeling a bit fresher towards the southeast and northwest where we have that brisk breeze. Later on as we go through this evening, staying largely fine. There's some clouds nearby to the far northwest of Scotland, but not really expecting that to make much headway in, so really it's going to be a dry end to the day across Scotland with some late sunshine as well. A similar story across much of Northern Ireland and across the bulk of England and Wales as well. Some late sunshine here, albeit with a little bit of cloud perhaps pushing across parts of Lincolnshire and some thicker cloud around Kent. Maybe one or two showery bursts mixed in with this as well. Then as we go overnight, a little bit more patchy cloud will come in from the east at times. Most places though staying dry with clear skies, and similar to recent nights with the clear skies and mostly light winds, again we're going to see our temperatures taking a bit of a drop. Towns and cities, yes, generally holding up in the mid to high single figures, but away from the more built up areas, temperatures will drop close to, if not a little bit below freezing, so a fresh, chilly, maybe even frosty start to the day for many of us tomorrow. Then through tomorrow, more cloud coming in from eastern parts, and where it's thick enough, a few spots of rain here and there. Further west, staying dry, brighter and often quite sunny, but worth bearing in mind there is a band of rain out to the west of us. This is going to arrive in time for the weekend, so most of us will see a bit of rain on Saturday. Temperatures tomorrow, well, not quite as high as today because of the thicker cloud pushing in.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A76 near Carron Bridge is closed due to an incident. Consider diversions and plan extra time. Significant delays are on the M60 clockwise between junctions 8 and 9 due to an accident. A19 northbound in North Tyneside has one lane closed, prompting motorists to seek alternatives. The M60 in Trafford has all lanes closed from a collision, leading to hefty delays. In Hampshire, a southbound A36 accident resulted in full lane closure. On the trains, expect disruptions between Stirling and Perth, with buses replacing trains between Corkicle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
So we're talking about the army, which wants to hit a target of 30% of female recruits by 2030 after a report, a dossier, sex dossier came to light, which showed a number of women, members of the armed forces, literally locked themselves in their rooms to stop predatory men or perhaps predatory women from assaulting them. Let's talk to Army veteran Neil Presley. Neil, you were in the Army a long time.
I was.
Does this report about how women have been treated in the Army surprise you?
Not in the slightest. It's been going on for years, but what is more surprising is the lack of response from the military. Basically, the closed doors, the fact that the women have been actually left to well, pretty much like the grooming gangs now. They've been told to shut up and put up. But in my day, it was... I didn't see it as much because women and men were separated.
Right.
You know, this report of a guy knocking on a woman's door for 2 hours, that would have been stopped. I mean, to be quite honest, if men went into the women's blocks, they'd be arrested.
Really?
You know, it's, you know, the fact that this country has become far too interested in DEI
yes.
rather than looking at who's suitable to do the job. You know?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Because, of course, this report reveals some pretty awful behaviour, which, of course, you know, we would all condemn. But on the other hand, the idea that the report says the army is too male-coded, and that's the problem. But surely we want the army. If any particular organisation should be male-coded, it should be the army. We want them to go and fight. We want them to go and sacrifice.
Indeed.
We want them to go and you know, be brutal sometimes, let's be honest.
Well, the thing is that women have been a vital part of the military for a long, long time. Let's go back to Florence Nightingale and was it Mary Seaby?
Yeah.
Seaby?
Yeah.
So vitally important. But, again, armies aren't nice.
Yeah.
Wars aren't nice.
No.
You can't be a nice person.
It's a rough, tough place.
Yeah.
But, again, you still need a psychological profile because... Sexual harassment, sexual assaults are inexcusable. You know?
You're saying it's not just women that are at risk?
No, it's not just women at risk. I mean, I've worked for 12 and a half years within the veterans sector for a military charity, now for veterans' mental health. And some of the stories that I'm hearing from male veterans, female veterans, they're horrific. You know, and it's not just males attacking the women, it's females as well. There are female grooming gangs within it. You know, and again, this is where the DEI needs to stop.
And now what you're hearing now was it much worse than when you were in the?
Well, I didn't see it as much, whether I was blinded by it, you know, just focused on my career or whatever. But you know, there were stories, and I have seen some incidents, but the people that were involved were severely reprimanded, gone.
Now, this report was written by Professor Anthony King. He's an independent academic. And one of the things that he draws out is that so many of the soldiers of all ranks told him that they didn't know what the army was for, and that part of the problem was a lack of morale, a lack of purpose, that there weren't any wars to fight. They were really frustrated by having to help out in COVID, by distributing masks and things like that, and they just lacked a sense of what are we here for. They were thinking that's actually contributing to this toxic culture, if you like.
The biggest problem is that the fact that they've stopped the the training process. You know, a lot of the military is actually used for humanitarian reasons. You know, you go into a disaster zone, you help support, you know, and COVID was classed as a disaster zone. So the military were needed there. I mean, I was quite surprised during COVID when I walked out onto my balcony, I saw the military police patrolling the streets. Yeah. You know, I'm like, oh, hang on, have we gone into a, you know...
Was it?
Yeah. But they need to be taught again that we're not just there to fight wars, we're there to support humanitarian projects. You know, in my day, I mean, again, you had electricians, plumbers, builders, mechanics, everything within the units. They've stopped all that and started contracting them out. So therefore, people are left to wonder what they're doing.
What about the idea as well of a target? 30% neither me or I ever agree with these wretched quotas.
No.
Do you think it's not going to work?
No, it's not. I mean, as I said, there's always been a role for women within the army. And don't get me wrong, some of the women that I've met in the army put the fear of God in me. You know, but it's a matter of choosing the right person for the right job. You know, is this person capable of doing that? Are they psychologically able to withstand that?
Yeah.
You know, because PTSD does attack, and it can attack at any time, whether you're in or out, you know.
One of the other things that the report identified is that because there are so few relatively women in the army, I think about 10% of the armed forces, that some of the men felt that the women were being given unfair opportunities to represent the unit, to take part in different activities because the commanding officers wanted a woman to take part, and that was generating some resentment. Do you think that's fair? I mean, is this just another DEI disaster?
It is another DEI disaster, but at the end of the day, it's the right role for the right person. You know, if that role is specifically for a woman, why is a man going to do it? You know what I mean? If you need someone there that needs to soften the blow, to be quite honest, most men in the army, you ain't going to soften the blow with their attitudes and their voices. But you've got a woman there to do it. And I don't mean to sound misogynistic or anything, but it's a fact of life. You know, you need people to be harsh, you need people to be softer and a little bit more empathetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, of course, what this really gets to the heart of is that there is a difference between men and women, that perhaps over the last 20, 30 years, we've kind of pretended that there isn't. We've pretended that whatever job it is, engineer, nurse, nursery nurse, soldier, there should be this equality. But isn't the fact that, although there are differences, of course, within males and females, there are these stereotypes that, you know, normal people can observe?
And you've hit the nail on the head, normal people.
Yes.
Again, you know, it is a case of, and I'll keep repeating it, the right person for the right job. You know, not a quota of, oh, we need a certain amount of these, a certain amount of those, you know, that's going to make us look all-inclusive. We don't need to be inclusive, we need to be able to fight a war. We need to be able to defend our country.
Yeah.
You know, we need to be able to defend each other. But there still needs to be that sort of level of protection for the women in the forces.
Yeah. And would you recommend a young person to join the armed forces right now?
This day and age, no, not a cat in hell's chance.
Because?
I'm going to say it, and I don't care who, you know, who's the woke society. You know, in my day, you were given an order, you obeyed it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're given an order. Why? What am I doing that for? I'm not doing that. No. We don't need that. You need people that are going to obey orders, because when you're out on the battlefield, you need to listen and command. When you command, you obey.
Not question and file a complaint.
Not question and file a complaint, no. I mean, I was asked to go back to the depot to train young recruits. I walked in and found quilts on the beds and carpets on the floors. I was like, no, not a cat in hell's chance.
Quilts on the bed and carpets on the floor. Were there pot plants there too?
No, they came in afterwards.
You're not painting a very reliable picture here, Neil. But Neil Presley, thank you so much for coming in and being so candid with this as well.
You're welcome.
We have to read because we we're not getting the balance here. The spokesman of the Ministry of Defence said unacceptable criminal behaviour has absolutely no place in the military, and since this report was carried out in 2022, we've seen significant changes in the army.
Well, coming up next, 1 in 20 pubs are at risk of closing after Labour's tax raids. Is it last orders for our boozers?
But first, if you want some of that elusive holiday sun, here's the forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heaviest and most thundery rain that's been affecting parts of Central Europe through recent days, that's now starting to ease. But nonetheless, a fair few showers across parts of Greece and nearby countries as we go through Friday. A few showery bursts still across Italy, could still be quite heavy towards the north. Meanwhile, further west across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine, albeit with a few showery bursts pushing towards Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of fine weather for most of us through into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back. 9 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
1 in 20 pubs could face closure by next year, because of the concern over the tax rates, national insurance, etc.
And alcohol duty and also high business rates are also making it impossible for pubs to make a profit, with 12,000 jobs also expected to be cut.
We're going to talk to Tax and Trade Policy Manager at the Beer and Pub Association, Morgan Schonderheimer. Morgan, good morning. These figures are frankly shocking. And the pub, as far as I can see it, is a really important part of British cultural life.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and that's one of the main reasons why we're calling on the government to intervene and do what they can to support the pub. So we have some research out that we did with CEBR, an economic consultancy, that finds that unless the government delivers on their promise to reform business rates, up to 2,000 pubs could be at risk, which means, that could risk 12,000 jobs, like you say. So the government has promised to intervene and fix the unfair business rates burden on pubs, but until that moment comes at the budget, we really just need to keep the pressure on and make sure that they do deliver on these promises.
Why is it the business rates in particular, Morgan, that are the issue for publicans?
It absolutely is the tax burden as a whole. The cost of doing business is so high, but business rates is something that the pub has to pay before they even open their doors, before they sell that first pint. So it's really one of the highest fixed costs that they have in addition to employment. So that's kind of why it's really one of those things that needs to be tackled by the government, because £1 in every 3 spent at the pub goes straight to the tax man, and a lot of that is business rates and employment tax, like you say.
Now, what is the kind of average profit that an average pub makes? I appreciate there's probably no such thing as an average pub, but what kind of level of profit do these pubs make? And then what kind of level is business rates set at, and how has that changed?
Yeah, you're right. There really is no such thing as the average pub. But what we have calculated is that a publican's only really making 12p in profit on every pint that they sell. So we're talking about really slim margins. And you might see that a pub is packed and really vibrant, but, we're talking really small amounts of profit on each pint. So if a publican's only taking 12 pence per pint, they have to turn over a lot of pints to survive. So business rates is a really big cost. The way that business rates are calculated for pubs, the better a pub does, the more they pay in business rates. So it's kind of a negative self-fulfilling
There's no incentive to do well. I'm really sorry, Morgan, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much. I know it's an issue that our viewers care a lot about. So do I.
I like to support pubs. I don't go enough to a pub, actually.
Maybe we should start doing it after the show.
Exactly. Or even
Liquid
before
lunch.
the show.
Why not? Make it more interesting. Well, Andy Burnham has said MPs are urging him to stand against Sir Keir Starmer. Don't miss that.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any mist or fog clearing away this morning, leaving a mostly dry afternoon, plenty of sunny spells and temperatures around about average for this time in autumn. And the reason for the settled spell of weather is all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but low pressure never too far away, eventually pushing in some rain as we head closer to the weekend. For this afternoon, though, dry, settled, plenty of spells of sunshine, though we might just start to see more cloud enter into parts of southeast England later into the afternoon, chance of the odd isolated shower, and fairly similar across western Scotland, more cloud here and also risk of showers, but once again, a mostly dry and warm end to the day, highs pushing into 20 degrees Celsius across parts of the southeast. As we finish off the day across Scotland, once again it should remain mostly dry, bar the odd shower across western Scotland, but this is really where winds are starting to pick up through the course of the night, even a risk of gales across western Scotland as we head further into Friday morning. Across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England though, dry, a mix of cloud and also some clearer skies, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales, but once again a little breezier around coast of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent, and this breeze may just push in some cloud at times, possibly producing the odd light shower. But for many of us, it's going to remain mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, particularly across western areas. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the early hours of the morning, and possibly some frost, particularly in rural spots in the west. Not turning quite as chilly across the southeast, with more cloud pushing in here, but many towns and cities in the mid to high single figures. Then as we head into Friday, once again a mostly dry, settled day. More cloud once again continuing to push in from the southeast, so it's not going to be feeling quite as warm and still rather breezy around coastal areas too. And quite a windy day across parts of Scotland where once again there is the risk of the odd shower. But remaining mostly dry across the country, temperatures not getting quite as high as this afternoon, highs reaching 16 to 17 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
It's 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 25th of September, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, has claimed that MPs have urged him to take on Sir Keir Starmer and challenge the Prime Minister for the Labour leadership. Moments ago, he said, "It's not up to me, it's up to the party." We'll be speaking to Cabinet Minister Steve Reid shortly.
And fury and disbelief as an Afghan dinghy migrant given refuge in the United Kingdom has gone on an 8-week holiday, guess where to? This apparently dangerous Afghanistan he'd fled. Once again, our asylum migration system in chaos.
And anti-immigration enforcement messages are found on bullets used in a shooting at an immigration centre in Dallas, an attack that has been condemned by the FBI Director and Senator Ted Cruz.
Needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong.
And are you more worried and anxious under Labour? We're going to reveal the staggering number of Brits that have been signing on to disability benefits for anxiety every single day since Sir Keir Starmer swept to power.
Now, I know, Andrew, under the last Conservative government, people got fed up with leadership changes,
well, they kept
complaints
doing
about leaders. And of course, Boris Johnson came into power in 2019 with an enormous majority, and a lot of people, much as they might not like Boris Johnson's record, were very upset that he was ousted from power.
Yeah.
Could the same be about to happen to Keir Starmer?
Yeah, and voters don't like it. They don't like disunited parties, and I think a lot of Labour MPs will be very fed up with Andy Burnham giving this interview on the eve of the Labour conference, which was already going to be very difficult.
Yeah. It very much undermines Starmer and the speech that he's going to have to make. And I know there was a lot of discussion about whether or not Andy Burnham is popular, but the point is he is known, isn't he? And
he really is.
Much more experienced politician than Sir
And
Keir Starmer.
he'll have a speaking slot at the conference. It'll be interesting to see what the reaction to him is. And will he be in the audience for Starmer's speech? Almost certainly, because he's one of their most high-profile politicians.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about that and all the other issues we're discussing today. So send your views or post your comments to
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, here's the headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 11 o'clock, well, the top story, Andy Burnham says fellow MPs have urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the Labour leadership, but insists he isn't plotting a return to Westminster. The Greater Manchester Mayor says he's ready to play any role as Labour faces what he calls an existential threat. Burnham defended his record, saying he'd been working behind the scenes on the Hillsborough law. Cabinet Minister Steve Reid, though, has dismissed speculation of a leadership bid, saying it's tittle-tattle, saying Burnham had committed to serving his full mayoral term. He urged Labour instead to focus on delivering change at the party's conference. Ministers are weighing emergency support for Jaguar Land Rover suppliers after a cyber attack shut down production last month. Ministers are weighing emergency support after that shutdown, with the hack forcing JLR to suspend its IT systems, halting output at 3 UK plants until at least October. Unions say the disruption, costing £50 million a week, threatens tens of thousands of jobs in the supply chain. Well, figures out this morning show that the Crown Court backlog in England and Wales has now hit a record 78,329 cases. That is up 10% in just a year, with nearly a third involving violent offences. More than 19,000 cases have been open for at least a year, the highest level since records began. Justice Secretary David Lammy admits the figures lay bare what he described as unacceptable delays for victims and has promised record investment and bold reform. A review has proposed cutting jury trials and creating new courts run by judges, with ministers set to respond this autumn. Some cases are now being listed as far ahead as 2029. The US President says that an escalator suddenly stopped as he and the First Lady stepped on. His teleprompter also failed mid-speech and the auditorium's audio cut out. On Truth Social, Trump blasted the incidents, calling them a real disgrace, and called for arrests, saying the Secret Service is now involved. UN officials insist safety mechanisms and US equipment were to blame, not sabotage. But America's UN ambassador has echoed Trump's demand for a full probe, calling the events unacceptable. Here, Nigel Farage has pressed the Bank of England to embrace cryptocurrency and rethink money printing after his first formal meeting with the governor. The Reform UK leader, who once branded Andrew Bailey hopeless, called the talks today encouraging, but warned the bank was still moving too slowly.
The whole of the city for centuries has existed, has moved forwards with innovation, seeing new products, being at the front of a line, and here we are with a massive global development in cryptocurrencies, digital assets, stable coins, and it seems to me the bank are turning their back on it completely. It's madness.
Well, it comes as Reform pledges to save tens of billions of pounds by stopping interest payments to central banks and halting quantitative tightening. But Labour has compared Mr Farage to Liz Truss 2.0, warning his policies would mean higher mortgages, bills and weaker rights for working families. The Home Office's appeal over the terror ban on Palestine Action will be heard in London today. Co-founder Huda Amori is challenging former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's decision to prescribe the group, making support for it punishable by up to 14 years in prison. A High Court judge previously ruled Amori had reasonably arguable grounds to claim that the ban was disproportionate and breached natural justice. The case follows the group's claim of responsibility for damaging 2 RAF planes in June, causing £7 million in damage. And Denmark has been hit by a hybrid attack carried out by a professional actor after drones forced Aalborg Airport to close overnight. Flights there were diverted and 3 other airports also reported sightings. The Prime Minister warns it's the most severe attack on Danish infrastructure so far, with Russian involvement at this stage not being ruled out. It follows Russian jets breaching Estonian airspace and drones crossing into Poland and Romania. NATO says that Moscow bears full responsibility and has vowed to defend its members with all necessary tools. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you shortly. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Miriam.
Well, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, 11 minutes past 7. And this story about Andy Burnham is developing while we're on air, Andrew.
Of course. So he gave an exclusive interview to the Daily Telegraph where he says MPs privately are pushing him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the leadership. Now, there's no vacancy, of course, you could argue. And there is a slight problem here because he doesn't have a common seat. But during an interview on the BBC, he refused to be drawn on a discussion on what he described as hypothetical leadership opportunity.
But he says the party instead needs to focus on getting people behind Labour again, and he also warned that it's actually reform that is the biggest issue facing the Labour Party.
A proper plan for the country and a proper plan to be reformed. We've got to work on a proper plan to beat reform. And we've got a plan to beat reform. That is what matters.
Well, we're going to talk to the associate political editor at the Telegraph, Tony Diver, who did the interview with Andy Burnham. Andy, I think he wants it both ways, doesn't he? A fascinating interview in the Telegraph today where he made it absolutely clear unnamed Labour MPs have approached him and said, throw your hat in the ring because we want Starmer out. And yet he's now trying to say it's not a matter for him, it's a matter for others. Is he concerned that perhaps he's ruffled too many feathers with his interview with you in the Telegraph?
Well, I think one of the interesting things about this line from Andy Burnham is he says, on the one hand, he doesn't want any factionalism in the Labour Party. Yeah. He thinks that the party's become too divided and he wants the country to come together around a Labour government. At the same time, he's the one who's being most critical of the Labour government and not denying any of these rumours about a potential leadership bid. So, MPs that I've spoken to in the party, even some who previously said that they would support him, are now saying, isn't this actually creating a bit of a distraction from Labour Party conference this weekend and creating more of a headache for Number 10?
Well, it is doing that because we should be talking about how Starmer's going to unite the party, his plans for the country in the next 12 months. It's still only, Tony, isn't it, just 14 months since that landslide election victory. But instead, Starmer's going to be going to Liverpool, and all people are going to be talking about, is Andy Burnham going to run against him?
Well, yeah, I think that's right. And we know that Andy Burnham is going to make some appearances at that conference. He's probably only doing 2 or 3 events, which I think is fair to say is fewer events than he normally does at Labour Party conference. But all the attention is going to be on him now. And he's outlined in our interview this morning in the Telegraph some ideas for what he describes as his plan to defeat reform. That's increasing council tax for bigger houses in London and the South East, potential reintroduction of the 50p rate, top rate of income tax, and a few other ideas of social housing investment, for instance. But if he is genuinely considering a run, there'll have to be plenty more policies, plenty more meat on the bones. People, I think, at that conference will be wanting to hear from him. So go on then, what is the plan? If you think Number 10's not doing a good enough job, what will you do differently?
Well, of course, Labour MP's principal concern will be that the poll ratings are tanking. It looks very unlikely at the moment that they're going to win a second seat, and so potentially hundreds of them, a second term, and so potentially hundreds of them could lose their seats. Now, there's been a poll just published actually this morning by More in Common. We can bring it to you on the screen, which shows the difference in poll rating if Andy Burnham were to lead the Labour Party, and it turns being behind reform to a small lead over reform. So MPs will be looking at that carefully and saying, well, actually, we care about the Labour government having a second term. Maybe it is worth the risk going to Andy Burnham.
Well, yes, but I think it's also worth saying that it's very easy to be popular when you're not in government. I mean, look at Keir Starmer's poll ratings before the election. He was always doing very well. Almost the second that he stepped through over the threshold of Number 10, the rating started to tank and they're now at a historic low. So it's very easy to be the king over the water, as Andy Burnham is sometimes described. It's very easy to take pot shots from the side. Actually making the decisions when you get in, being unpopular, raising people's taxes or cutting spending on things they care about. That's the kind of thing you have to do when you're Prime Minister that Burnham hasn't had to do yet. So, I'm sure, his allies will point to that poll and say, well, things could be so much better if Starmer was replaced. Whether or not that would actually happen, I'm a bit more sceptical.
All right, great to talk to you, Tony. That's Tony Diver. Let's talk now to the Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South, Graeme Stringer. Graeme, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Graeme, I keep reading that you're going to graciously surrender your seat to Andy Burnham and allow the self-styled King of the North to fight a by-election and then run for the Labour leadership. All very handy.
I've said explicitly on a number of occasions, in public and private, that I will not be standing down. I asked the people in Blakely and Middleton South to vote for me at the last election. I'm pleased they did, and I want to honour their support by completing however long this Parliament has got to run. And I think the same, actually, if we get on to Andy Burnham. I think Andy should do the same. Nothing annoys the public more than standing for a position and then saying, oh, I'd like to be European Commissioner or Prime Minister or something else. So thank you for your support a year or so ago, but I'll do something else now that's more important than representing you.
Now, Graeme, there's no doubt that Keir Starmer is in trouble. It's been a difficult first year. There have been a string of scandals recently, none of which particularly been his own making, but nevertheless he has been criticised for his handling of. Do you think this is something he can recover from? Can he regain the confidence of MPs, or is it really now a matter of when, not if, he is ousted from the leadership?
I think it's if, but he has to up his game. He has to improve dramatically. You're right. It's not the Prime Minister's fault if people behave badly in one way or another, but how he dealt or deals with that in the future is very important. He needs to get in there quickly if there is a problem and sort it out. So I think he's got perhaps to the local elections in 7 months' time, maybe a bit longer, to really improve what he's doing. And it has to be based on a clear, coherent plan of how this government is going to develop, what its priorities are. It's going to be a tough budget. Is he going to cut some things? I'm rather more in favour of cutting lots of quangos and things that this country managed without for years, rather than putting taxes up, which will hurt everybody and usually the poorest people. But whatever plan it is, he has to explain it and people have to understand it. While they don't like tough decisions, they know they're necessary, and they really punish prime ministers and governments that don't take the tough decisions, because if we wait, the decisions get more difficult.
Do you suspect, Graeme, and Graeme, you've been in Parliament a very long time, have people, do you think, perhaps already made their mind up about the Prime Minister? They just don't think he's very good?
A lot of people have, yeah. People who've talked to me, who've canvassed in different parts of the country, say it's very difficult. That he, by name, and he's the Prime Minister, so people know who he is, but it's often quite difficult to get name recognition, and people are very angry about him at the moment. That doesn't mean to say the situation can't be recovered. And if you ask people, as you do in opinion polls, what would you vote if you had to vote tomorrow, then we would lose the election. But that's not the reality. The election will come when it comes in 3 or 4 years' time. And if he's improved his performance, then those decisions that people make in the polling station may well be different.
Now, Graeme, one of the criticisms that's often made of not just the Labour Party, but all political parties, is that their membership are not particularly representative of their voters. I mean, people generally think that Labour members are quite a long way to the left of Labour voters. Do you think there's going to be some tension at conference between what the members want the government to do and what people like you or people with more of a handle on what ordinary people think is the right way forward?
That tension's always there. Party members join because they have aspirations to create a better society, and the Labour Party creates a more equal society. And if you look at where the tension's likely to arise on the cap on benefits families with children stopping after 2 children, then the party membership really wants that cap taken off. The public, I think 80% of the public want that cap to stay. And it's the responsibility of a leader to explain why that isn't a good thing, to get at odds with the electorate, particularly when we're short of money. So that's one of the tests of leadership, I think, is explaining what the electorate want and explaining the finances. One of the things Andy Burnham wanted was a 50% tax. When Gordon Brown was Chancellor, he was forever explaining to the Labour Party. That policy would have been popular in many years to the Labour Party. He was always explaining that you'd probably get a reduced tax take if you put it up. And he won, by educating the Labour Party, he won that argument. Apart from the last 2 or 3 months of the Labour government in 2010, when he put the tax up to 45% as a trap for the Conservatives, really.
Well, Graeme, always good to talk to you. Are we going to see you at the conference in Liverpool?
For personal reasons, not political reasons, if I go, it will only be for a very short period of time.
Well, I hope I bump into you. Always good to talk to you. That's Graeme Stringer, who is the Labour MP for...
Eminently sensible voice of reason as well.
He really is, actually, and I think he reflects quite a lot of people's irritation with Andy Burnham, which is why I think Andy is now doing these interviews to slightly try and row it back.
He's backtracking a bit, I think, yes.
But it's job done, isn't it? It's out there now. I want the leadership.
Well, we're going to be sticking with this developing story because after the break, we're going to be asking Cabinet Minister Steve Reed about that apparent leadership bid from Andy Burnham.
And stop what you're doing, because if you've been reading your star sign, it could have been wrong for all of your whole lives. If you thought you were Aquarius, you might actually be a Capricorn. This is according to a new report. We'll explain it all. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GBNews.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GBNews, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's Britain's favourite. We've said that already. But we can keep saying it because you're watching this programme in ever-increasing numbers and listening in ever-increasing numbers, and we're always grateful. We don't take you for granted. We've got the panel back. Karen Malone, who's just ripping up paper. Not as opposed to ripping up
I'm just saying
Jonathan Liss.
People are watching despite you, my love.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now, what are we talking about, guys?
We're going to talk about this. There's some figures today talking about Britain is crippled with anxiety. Record numbers, young people claiming benefits for
Read these numbers out,
anxiety.
Malone.
OK, so under Labour, 250 more every day. 650,000 people are on PIP for anxiety. Now, there's no level for anxiety. You can be a little bit fed up, you can be a little bit down, your mood can be a bit black, so you can be on it for that, and that goes to the very worst.
So 250 people a day, every day, are signing on because of anxiety.
This list, or anxiety. So
it's ridiculous.
It is, it's also bad for people.
What's become of this country?
We've got 1 million young people, who are not working.
I know.
And this is because they're anxious. We're all anxious. Ask all four of us on this table today, were you anxious at any point this morning? Yes, we would be at some point about something. It's
only that I'd overcooked my porridge.
I think you haven't. Maybe it doesn't matter what you're anxious about.
Where's the backbone?
If you're anxious.
Where's people's backbone?
There's no resilience anymore. And I think this is what's happening in schools with people. That kids are being taught that anything that upsets them, they don't have to engage with, they don't have to do, they don't have to deal with. So if work upsets them, if they feel a little bit... I mean, someone was telling me the other day that someone had said they felt overwhelmed by having to go into work. Overwhelmed. Well, I feel that.
Sit next to you. Work from home.
Before we move on to Jonathan, I should just say that the senior researcher at the Centre for Social Justice, who's brought out these figures and is quoted on it, he is going to be on our show in a few minutes' time, so we can quiz him further on the numbers.
But I think they are saying we've got to get young people back to work.
We do.
Because work's good for you. It's really good for you.
Of course it is. It's a routine.
Yes.
You need it.
There are two extremes here, and I think that the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. I think that in the past, mental health was completely overlooked. People were just told to buck up, and people lived miserably. And it's possible that there has been an overcorrection in some ways, and that now people are encouraged not to maybe face problems in the same way. And look, we know that there is also, at the same time as this conversation, there is a mental health crisis in the sense that it's completely underfunded. It's called a Cinderella service in the NHS, and that there are a lot of people who can't get any kind of talking therapies at all. And so what you often have is you have richer people who can afford therapy, and people in the sort of middle class people in London, so many of my friends are on therapy, and a lot of them I'm sure need it, but it's also just part of. It's just almost like part of, and they're part of a normal part of their life, in the way that sort of middle class people are expected to go to university and they have therapy in adulthood.
We're talking about a specific thing here. We're talking about anxiety. It is part of the human condition, anxiety, and it's something that most people manage, and you have to manage it. You have to manage it to go on every day. But the fact that you can claim it's not a disability to be anxious, and yet young people are claiming this as a disability. Now, when are these people ever going to go back to work?
Carol, that's a valid point, because I agree that people get sucked into this sort of self-fulfilling trap, this self-fulfilling circle, which becomes a benefits trap. I agree with you, and that's a problem. But I think that just to dismiss people who are suffering from crippling anxiety, that's wrong as well.
Even if we could agree that there is a mental health crisis, let's just assume that's true for now.
Do we have to?
What's not? Just for the sake of my thought experiment, Andrew, just stay with me.
I'm sceptical.
Andrew, people are miserable in this country.
Even if we accept that there is a mental health crisis, it's not clear that staying off work is actually a good answer to that, or that therapy. There's very mixed evidence on certain types of interventions, some different than others. And so surely the question we should be asking is, if this mental health crisis is real, what's the evidence-based approach? And staying off work and being introspective is not it.
But Miriam, if GPs are signing people off work, presumably they have some kind of
GPs sign
clinical...
almost everybody off work, well over 95%, because they're under so much pressure, they just need to get people out the door.
They do.
There are
and they often sign them off without even seeing them.
I'm not saying that there isn't a problem here, and I'm not claiming there is a silver bullet to it. I think that with all of these things, there is a grain of truth in sort of what people say, but I don't think the answer is just to say, you know, get on with it and sort of grow up or whatever. That's completely counterproductive.
We have to get to a point with this government. We have a welfare bill that's nudging 100 billion. We have to get to a point where a government, it's not going to be this one, we know that, just says no. You know, you're not going to claim benefits for anxiety. It is not a disability. It's not going to be classed under that. They have to start slashing this welfare bill because it's going to envelop and engulf
I'm sure you'll support getting rid of the triple lock, for example, Carol, which is one of the biggest.
Well, you know, I don't support
part
that.
Of the.
I don't support that.
Don't you think pensioners have been badly treated already?
No, I'm saying that if we agree that the welfare bill is too high, then everyone needs to pay their share.
The difference between you're talking about state pensions now for elderly people. These aren't charity. They're not given to them out of the goodness of a government's heart. These are people who have paid into the system all of their lives.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Yes, it does work like that.
A state pension is a benefit. It comes from current taxpayers. There's no pot with anybody's name on.
Yes,
the
but
national insurance, the tax that they've paid. Yes, but if you've paid in £1 million in tax and national insurance in your working life, you will get the same benefit, because it is a benefit, as someone who's paid in 10 grand. It's a benefit.
The bottom line is...
There is no pot with your name on.
If you're a civilised country,
but I don't claim benefits. I don't claim benefits because I earn a good salary.
Yeah, but you
so
can't,
why is a state pensioner on a very high pension?
Well, maybe because people
benefit?
Can't help getting old. And
that's not what I'm saying, Carol, at all. Yeah, Jonathan is saying, why don't we means test it like it means tested all other benefits?
I'm not saying means test it at all.
I think there should be universal
benefit. We've digressed about how many people are stressed out that they're claiming benefits. We've digressed a bit, haven't we?
Well, we have, but it is
part
of the same system.
And this is also about the idea of the deserving when benefits came to the
There's this narrative now that every pensioner in Britain is a millionaire living high off the hog on private pensions. It's nonsense.
In France,
we have 2 million pensioners living on the state pension alone.
You're right, it is nonsense that all are like that. But it is also the wealthiest generation that's ever lived. 80% of wealth is concentrated in the over 60s. So why can't we differentiate between people who desperately need a state pension and people who don't?
The wealth is concentrated in those people, Miriam, is because they might live in a house that's worth £1 million.
Yeah,
in London, you can't do anything else. That's what houses cost. They would have bought that house 30 years ago.
Yeah, people of my age can't buy a single house, can't buy any level of house.
That's fine. You've got a lifetime to work for it. They did work for it.
I'm talking about people who've already been working for 20 years, sort of my generation, who cannot buy a house.
We are going to return to this after the breaks, but can we talk about what's your star sign?
Yes.
I am not often I've said this. I'm an Arian. No, not in that way, but I'm Aries.
And what's you, Malone?
Well, I was Libra, but according to this new thing in the Daily Mail today, which is saying we've all got our star signs wrong.
Is this extraordinary?
Years edited. Now, I could read you the scientific explanation, but I'm not because it's too hard. But it's based on something called the axial precession. And what it means... Never mind what it means. But what it means is all of us are one behind what we should be.
Right.
So I'm a Libra, I'm now a Virgo, which, in my mind, is not a good star sign to be.
Right.
Because Libra is artistic, they're beautiful, they're a little bit indecisive.
Why could you be one of those then?
Well, I thought I was. Rita, what was yours?
I was Aquarius. What am I now?
Well, you were the one before. So if you were Aquarius...
I'm now a Capricorn.
Apparently I'm Pisces now.
So look up... Oh, we should have done this before. We should have got some...
If this is true, this research, for years, some people buy newspapers for their star signs.
Well, I'm one.
And they're completely devoted to it and read them every day. So they've been sold a pup for years.
What I can't understand is how we divide the population of the entire world into 12 categories and say, well, if you're born in one of these categories, this is your personality. I'm always welcome to be corrected by people. I've got friends who
you have
really
the characteristics of a typical Aryan?
energy in turbulence, constantly looking for speed and competition, thrive on being first and everything. That's why.
So Pierce's now. Can't be yours. This is your new one. It says you're known for your being intellectual, independent, and your humanitarian outlook on life. That is so not you.
That is so not you. Outlook on life, and I don't want one.
A load of rubbish.
He can't turn his phone on without help. I mean, it's so not independent.
Invented by the Babylonians 2 millennia ago. So there you go. Must be true.
So there we are. If you thought you were
Have we got any more time? Because we wanted to do yoghurt as the secret to a long life.
We've run out of time.
OK, we've got to go to the
3 a day?
But we might
Eat yoghurt 3 times a day. Again, live to 120.
I have a yoghurt every day. But
it's a great source of protein, I swear.
Is it low fat or fat?
It's one you get. Anyway, we'll better leave it there. We've got your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 11:30, the top story. The Crown Court backlog in England and Wales has hit a record high of more than 78,000 cases. Justice Secretary David Lammy says the figures lay bare unacceptable waits for victims, with some trials now listed for 2029. Andy Burnham says Labour MPs have urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the leadership. The Manchester Mayor hasn't ruled it out, saying Labour faces an existential threat. At the United Nations, Donald Trump is demanding an investigation into what he calls triple sabotage, an escalator failure, a broken teleprompter and audio glitches during his speech. He's accused UN staff of a deliberate plot, calling it a disgrace. Jaguar Land Rover remains crippled by last month's cyber attack, with factories shut and losses topping £50 million a week. Ministers are weighing emergency measures to prop up suppliers at risk of collapse. The Home Office appeal begins today over the terror ban on Palestine Action. Its co-founder argues the move breaches her right to free expression. And the Co-op has revealed half-year losses of £75 million, blaming April's cyber attack that stole data from 6.5 million of its members. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
It's that time of the day, and they're here.
Hold on a minute, it's that time of the day. Are we having trouble telling the time now, Andrew Pearce?
No.
Wow.
It's 11:33.
I just loved
Kind
the
of that time of day.
enthusiasm with which you introduced
it. We were going to a break, and that is the excuse. So there you go.
It sounded like a chore. Oh, it's them. It's that time of the think we're not even going to name them.
Well, I think.
Well, we can't. I'm sorry, we can't be bothered then, can we?
I think you gave us a 10-second trail this morning when you were doing breakfast, madam.
Oh,
You're getting a bit longer than that.
What it needs. We've got a great exclusive. What really goes on in Sharia law courts in this country. We are going to go behind the scenes and find out what they're about. Because we all talk about it like we know what happens, but we are actually going behind the scenes to find out.
And send a copy of your report to the Mayor of London, Sadiq.
Yeah, well, they're much more prevalent than we're being told. That's the story today. Also, of course, the very latest on whether or not the Prime Minister is going to be turfed out of office just ahead of the Labour leadership contest. Could he really be at risk?
And finally, are Tom and I compatible? Spoiler alert, no.
It's the star sign raging debate.
Oh, there we go.
Well, that's all coming up at midday, but up next...
Are you more worried under Labour? We're going to reveal that staggering numbers again on the number of people who are claiming disability benefits for anxiety, and they've been doing it every single day since Labour came to power. What's going to happen to this country? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any mist or fog clearing away this morning, leaving a mostly dry afternoon, plenty of sunny spells and temperatures around about average for this time in autumn. And the reason for the settled spell of weather is all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but low pressure never too far away, eventually pushing in some rain as we head closer to the weekend. For this afternoon, though, dry, settled, plenty of spells of sunshine, though we might just start to see more cloud enter into parts of southeast England later into the afternoon, chance of the odd isolated shower, and fairly similar across western Scotland, more cloud here and also a risk of showers, but once again, a mostly dry and warm end to the day, highs pushing into 20 degrees Celsius across parts of the southeast. As we finish off the day across Scotland, once again, it should remain mostly dry, bar the odd shower across western Scotland. But this is really where winds are starting to pick up through the course of the night, even a risk of gales across western Scotland as we head further into Friday morning. Across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, though, dry, a mix of cloud and also some clearer skies, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. But once again, a little breezier around coast of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent, and this breeze may just push in some cloud at times, possibly producing the odd light shower. But for many of us, it's going to remain mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, particularly across western areas, so it's likely we'll see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the early hours of the morning, and possibly some frost, particularly in rural spots in the west. Not turning quite as chilly across the southeast, with more cloud pushing in here, but many towns and cities in the mid to high single figures. Then as we head into Friday, once again a mostly dry, settled day. More cloud once again continuing to push in from the southeast, so it's not going to be feeling quite as warm, and still rather breezy around coastal areas too. And quite a windy day across parts of Scotland, where once again there is the risk of the odd shower. But remaining mostly dry across the country, temperatures not getting quite as high as this afternoon, highs reaching 16 to 17 degrees.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 22 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
These figures are shocking, aren't they? An average of 250 new benefit claims linked to anxiety are being approved on a daily basis since Labour came to power.
Well, this, of course, is all as Britain has been branded the sick man of the G7, and business leaders are warning of the impact on the economy.
Let's talk to senior researcher at the Centre for Social Justice, Ben Gregg. Ben, are we in some form of mental health crisis, or is a lot of this affected? I don't hesitate to use the word put on, but I'm just struggling to think how these figures, 250 a day, every day. It's staggering.
Yeah, it is a staggering increase. I think it's more evidence that our welfare system is out of control, and that's obviously costing taxpayers, but it's also directly costing those people who are on welfare, who are, we think, being basically parked on the welfare system rather than treated and supported with their condition. And, you know, we're hearing sort of positive noises from the Secretary of State around sort of tackling this issue, getting people off welfare and back into work. But this data, as you say, it shows a really concerning rise that's quite staggering. So there's a real need to turn those warm words into action.
Now, Ben, I understand that we're quite unique in this country amongst comparable nations in treating physical and mental health problems the same when it comes to claiming benefits. Is that true? And how would you go about claiming benefits for anxiety? What process would you have to go through to prove that your condition is real, for example?
Yeah, I think one of the things with this is kind of we've ended up in this position from a road paved with good intentions, that there was a lot of talk about getting sort of parity of esteem between mental health and physical health. But part of the problem with that is, particularly then in the benefit system, we've ended up sort of thinking of it as if that means equality of treatment, when these are sort of fundamentally different kinds of conditions. That, you know, anxiety is a serious issue, but that it's exacerbated by social isolation. It's exacerbated and often triggered by being out of work. And so simply sort of paying people welfare and parking them in that situation isn't helping them. To claim PIP, you would go through an assessment of your mental health condition. But I think one of the things that does come out when you sort of look particularly in sort of data around the labour force survey is there's a fair number of people who haven't actually been diagnosed with the condition explicitly by a medical practitioner, but who are managing to pass the assessment. So there is a clear concern in terms of how this system is being run.
Is there responsibility here too with GPs who are signing off so many people, Ben, for benefits? Are they asking the right questions, or is it, I don't want to criticise GPs, they've got a big, difficult job to do, but is it just sometimes a lot easier just to say, OK, I'll sign you off again for another week or another month, and perhaps they're not even doing it in a face-to-face consultation?
Yeah, I think this is a big part of it. I mean, obviously, we're talking about GPs who have a limited number of appointments with a lot of need and demand, and so the pressure you face in a very short appointment to truly understand someone's condition, the ease with which it's possible to sort of turn to the sick note system, and it's easier, frankly, to sort of sign someone off than it is to sit down, have that long conversation about what actually are the barriers to you continuing in work, what are the issues that you're facing that I can help you through, I can recommend you to people for. And particularly when we're talking about mental health conditions, we did a piece of research looking at this, and actually 8 in 10 GPs responded to one of our surveys saying that they think mental health conditions are being over-medicalised, but they're almost facing that difficulty of pressure that they don't have time to kind of tackle that in an appointment, which was why one of our key recommendations is we want to see a national work and health service that moves some of that sick note system out of the GPs and out of the pressure for a proper assessment where people can actually find the assistance that they need to continue in work if that's the right thing for them.
Now, Ben, the CSJ has also done some calculations that shows that it is possible to take home more money by claiming benefits if you're eligible for various different kinds than if you work full-time on the minimum wage. Do you think benefits are just simply too generous, and so the incentive to stay in work is becoming less and less every year?
I think there are real concerns around the incentives in the welfare system, particularly actually within how you move and can combine different benefits with your income that shift you away from some of the benefits on universal credit, where you're getting encouragement to look for work, you're getting assistance to look for work, to where, for example, in the incapacity benefit system, so universal credit health, where you're not having those requirements. So, I mean, a big part of what we're pushing for is for, particularly when it comes to less severe mental health conditions, for funding to be redirected from simply paying people to actually treating people. So expanding NHS talking therapies, expanding employment support, and expanding community mental health services to actually treat people and help them, rather than sort of have those incentives. I mean, at the same time, we've got to recognise that this is coming in a really tricky job market, particularly for young people, where we've seen sort of 50,000 fall off payroll since April with the increase in employment costs. So we also want to see action that actually helps provide the job opportunities that people are currently struggling to find, which is why we've also proposed an effective tax cut for businesses that take on young people who are not in education or employment, so that there's an incentive for businesses to help people get out of welfare, and we're tackling the incentives that are trapping people in welfare too.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Ben, Greg, thank you very much from the Centre for Social Justice. Yeah, absolutely fascinating.
Which has been doing fascinating work in this area. Now, we need to read a statement from the government. We're reforming the broken welfare system by shifting our focus away from welfare and onto work skills and opportunities, especially for younger people. Really? Haven't seen the evidence.
Well, will backbenchers vote for it? That's a big question. Well, still ahead, we're going to be asking Cabinet Minister Steve Reed about Andy Burnham's apparent leadership bid. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heaviest and most thundery rain that's been affecting parts of Central Europe through recent days, that's now starting to ease. But nonetheless, a fair few showers across parts of Greece and nearby countries as we go through Friday. A few showery bursts still across Italy, could still be quite heavy towards the north. Meanwhile, further west across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine, albeit with a few showery bursts pushing towards Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of fine weather for most of us through into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Juber, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Juber, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. 11 minutes to midday, and let's return, Andrew, to our top story, because Andy Burnham, of course, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, and pretty much a celebrity in Labour world, really, has claimed that MPs are privately pushing him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the Labour leadership.
Now, there's been a lot of speculation about this, and the Daily Telegraph last Saturday ran a story, front page story, and I was quite surprised by it. It said, Burnham planning leadership bid. Tricky, he's the Mayor of Greater Manchester, to challenge the leadership of the Labour Party, effectively to become Prime Minister, you need to be an MP. He hasn't got a seat. But so he's now given this interview to Telegraph today. He doesn't pull his punches. He criticises Sir Keir Starmer directly, saying Number 10 has created a climate of fear among MPs. Remember, a lot of MPs have had the whip withdrawn, Miriam, because they dare to vote against on things like benefit cuts. He's accused Starmer of creating alienation and demoralisation within the party. These are strong words about a leader who's only 14 months ago won the biggest landslide for Labour in 20 years. It's extraordinary.
It was a very odd election because they won this incredible landslide, but only with just over 30% of the vote. So they knew coming in, actually, they didn't have the support of the majority of the population, even though they'd been very successful in winning seats. And of course, the other problem with having such a massive majority is you've got a huge number of backbenchers that know they're never going to get a ministerial job because there are just too many of them. And so once people realise that they're going to be overlooked, what else is there to do but to challenge the government?
They start plotting. And he was asked if... so there's been this speculation that he would run for leadership. Asked specifically by The Telegraph, have MPs approached you? He says, people have contacted me throughout the summer. Yes. I'm not going to say to you that hasn't happened. He could have said, I'm not getting into that. He didn't need to give the interview. Yeah. And what will infuriate them in Number 10 is this is all on the eve of the Labour conference. I'm going up to Liverpool on Saturday. The Labour conference begins in earnest on Sunday. This is when Labour is supposed to be showcasing all the best they're doing for the country. And this will now be dominated by speculation over is Keir Starmer going to be challenged? And the talk is, that I hear, it'll be around May, because there'll be local elections next May, which will be appalling for the Labour Party. It'll be appalling for the Tories as well, because of the reform surge. Yeah. And is the Prime Minister going to be challenged?
Indeed, and there's going to be a lot of turbulence between now and then, whether or not there is an official challenge. Well, during an interview on the BBC, Andy Burnham did refuse to be drawn into a discussion on what he described as a hypothetical leadership opportunity. But he said the party needs to focus on getting people behind Labour again.
He also warned that reform, 95 reform, was the biggest issue facing Labour. This is what he said.
A proper plan for the country and a proper plan to be reformed. We've got to work on a proper plan to beat reform. And we've got a plan to beat reform. That is what matters.
So that was Andy Burnham trying to, in my view,
distance.
Yes, because he knows he's fanned the flames. But he knew exactly what he was doing by giving that interview to The Telegraph, a Tory supporting paper.
Absolutely, and he does seem to be backtracking. But now, to join us to discuss this further, we have the Housing Secretary, Steve Reid. Steve, thank you very much for joining us this morning at short notice.
My pleasure. Good to see you both.
Good to see you. These are not the headlines that Labour were hoping for going into your conference. Can you pull it back to the mission-focused government that Keir Starmer is so keen to press on with?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm here today in Telford, talking to local people about how we're going to give them the powers they need to turn around failing high streets, and we're making an announcement that's going to affect communities up and down this country. People have felt powerless to do anything about high streets and town centres that have been in decline for far too long. We're going to give those communities the powers they need to restrict and limit the number of things like betting shops, vape shops, dodgy fake barbers on the high streets. We're going to give them the powers they need to take over and control empty shop units that are a blight on the high street. We're going to give communities the power, increased powers, to take over closed down pubs so that they can reopen them as the heart of their community. This is what people want to see. This is how we put pride back in people's communities, and I'm talking about that.
OK, yeah, but Andy Burnham isn't. And I'm just going to remind you, Steve, Secretary of State, what Andy Burnham said. He said that the Prime Minister has created alienation and demoralisation within the Labour Party. He said that he has been approached by Labour MPs to challenge for the leadership because he clearly says he's not doing a good enough job. This is from one of the most senior popular figures in the Labour movement on the eve of your party conference.
The Labour MPs I speak to here in Telford today, and the MPs that I speak to in Parliament, talk to me about what we can do to get the homes built.
Well, you're not obviously talking to the same ones who talk to Andy Burnham.
They talk to me about how we can turn around the high streets that people can no longer feel pride in because they've been allowed to fall into such despair. That is what our MPs are talking about, and I know that because I've been talking to MPs today as well as at other
Minister,
times.
you're in denial. You're in denial.
No,
There's a problem with the leadership of the Labour government. Look at the polls. Minister, look at the polls. Look at the polls. 14 months after you got in, you're trailing in the polls.
Well, you know, you've been in politics a long time, observing it, Andrew, and I've been involved as an elected member for a very long time. The polls go up and down. What you have to do is focus on the things we need to get right in order to win people's trust at the next general election. So let's have a look at some of the things that happened over the last year. Wages have gone up more in the last 10 months with this government than in the previous 10 years under the Conservatives. More money in people's pockets. 5 million more NHS appointments, bringing down those waiting lists. 35,000 people who came into this country and had no right to be here have been removed. And today, we're giving communities the power they need to take back control of their high streets and restore pride. People elected Labour into power to focus on their problems and fix them, and that is what we're going to do.
Steve, the problem that people
we're not going to talk to ourselves.
The problem that people sitting at home, and of course, some people follow politics closely, some people don't. But what people will have noticed is that inflation is now the highest in the G20. Small boat crossings are at record levels, and nobody's saying that the government has achieved nothing. But the things that people notice haven't improved, and that's the problem that the Labour Party faces. And impartial observers will want the government to succeed. Why wouldn't you want the government to succeed? But at the moment, it looks like things are getting worse, not better.
Yeah. Well, I was very proud at the beginning of this year, first quarter, the fastest growing economy in the G7. That means people are going to get a pay rise. That's why people.
But Steve, it doesn't mean that. It's a figure on a spreadsheet when it comes to people's lives.
You haven't had a pay rise for 10 years.
But Steve, you came in and you bailed out public sector jobs with taxpayer money.
That is the right thing for us to focus on. We've got to put money back in people's pockets. We've got to grow the economy. But you did that by taking money from taxpayers
and
we've got to give people the power they need to turn around failing high streets. So
Steve, hang on. Minister, hang on. You talk about putting money back in people's pockets. You took a lot of money out of people's pockets when you whacked up national insurance and you took away the winter fuel allowance.
Well, we had to, unfortunately, take some decisions that were going to give us the money to improve the National Health Service. One of the reasons so many people weren't in work is so many millions of people couldn't even get to see a GP or get an appointment in their hospital. So we've managed, by the decisions we took, to increase the number of appointments by 5 million. That helps people get back to work. That helps them earn a wage. They pay taxes on that. It's money into the exchequer, and that funds the improvement of our public services. The first time that people have had a wage rise for 10 years is with this government, and I'm proud of that because people need money in their pockets.
Can I take you back to Andy Burnham? He'll be at the Labour conference this weekend. He'll be there. He'll be speaking at various events. Do you have any advice for the Mayor of Greater Manchester?
Well, I think Andy, you used the right language. Andy is a fantastic mayor of Greater Manchester. Sadiq is doing a fantastic job in London. Tracy Brabin is doing an amazing job in Yorkshire. And we can all learn from their experiences in their localities. Now, Andy is committed to serving his full term as Mayor of Manchester, which concludes in 2028. I know he will want to work with the government to ensure that we bring in the investment that will improve his region, as well as those other mayors will be looking at their regions too. I'm charged with building 1.5 million new homes, or at least getting them built across the country. We have a housing crisis. We have young people that can't get their foot on the first rung of the housing ladder. We've got people that are paying more in rent than they would pay in mortgage. They can't find somewhere decent to live. We will build those homes. I can't do it on my own. I need our mayors to help me and work with me so that we can improve people's life chances and life opportunities.
Don't you also need your mayors to stop criticising the Prime Minister in public?
Well, do you know what? In politics, sometimes you get people that will make comments that some of us won't necessarily like. The key thing to do is focus on what the voters want. They elected this government on July the 4th last year. They said they wanted change. I've listed already for you a series of areas that we brought change in. I won't repeat them, Andrew, but I'm here today in Telford to announce big shift of powers from Whitehall to communities so we can put pride back in their town centres and their high streets. That is a major change. It's something I want to see, and it's the change that people voted for. They're now going to get it.
And how many homes are you hoping to build between now and the next election?
1.5 million by the end of this Parliament.
I bet you don't.
You're on, Andrew. You can buy me a pint if I don't.
Okay.
I've been speaking to the developers. We're going to take the barriers out of the way. We're going to work with local authorities and we're going to get it built. And I look forward to that pint.
All right, well, we'll change that. We might have a pint at Liverpool at the Labour conference, Minister.
Steve Reid, thank you very much.
I imagine I'll have to pay for it, of course.
Well, I think...
Lovely to talk to you, Secretary of State. That's Steve Reid, who is the new, of course, Housing Secretary, of course.
Absolutely.
Taking over from Angela Rayner. They won't reach that target of 1.5 million houses.
I think they're going to really struggle for all the same reasons as many, many governments have failed over the last few years. Well, coming up next, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Dawn. But first of all, we've got your news with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. It is just after 12 o'clock. Well, the top story this hour. Ministers are weighing emergency support for Jaguar Land Rover. Suppliers, after a cyber attack, has crippled and shut down production last month. Ministers are weighing up that emergency support after the hack forced JLR to suspend IT systems, halting output at 3 UK plants until at least October. Unions say the disruption, costing £50 million a week, threatens tens of thousands of jobs in the supply chain. Options on the table include government-backed loans or even stockpiling car parts to keep smaller firms afloat. The Crown Court backlog in England and Wales has hit a record 78,329 cases. That is up 10% in a year, with nearly a third involving violent offences. More than 19,000 cases have been open for at least a year, the highest since level records began. Justice Secretary David Lammy admits the figures lay bare unacceptable delays for victims, promising record investment and bold reform. A review has also proposed cutting jury trials and creating new courts run by judges, with ministers set to respond this autumn. The US President has said an escalator suddenly stopped as he and the First Lady stepped on. His teleprompter also failed mid-speech and the auditorium's audio cut out. On Truth Social, Trump has blasted those incidents as a real disgrace and called for arrests, saying the Secret Service is involved. UN officials insist safety mechanisms and the US's equipment were to blame, not sabotage. But America's UN ambassador has echoed Trump's demands for a full probe, calling the events unacceptable. Here, Nigel Farage has pressed the Bank of England to embrace